Iron twisted, looked around, fisted mouth, red teeth, no one here, just ancient,
Red
no
teeth.
sound, just electricity, but theories start to gather as I head into a future state convergence, red letter, so that there's no mistake, at the ready to rain down, kingdom come on any that brazen eye.
Good morning. I'm streaming early today because I have some time to do it. So welcome. Oh, let me put my banner. As usual, if anybody wants to come on, blah blah blah. If not, I'm gonna do some Twitter. Let me see if there's anything on the Twitter. Oh, there's one little tweet I found that I liked. It's about pronouns. I think putting those pronouns tells people that it's okay to be hurt by words. Yes. It's a way of enabling and propagating victimhood. Yes. I think a better message is that even if you're misgendered, it's okay. Just ignore them. Yes. It's like they're using pronouns to deliberately pick fights. I think I mentioned before, I used to get misgendered all the time. I sometimes still do on the phone. People would call me ma'am. It doesn't bother me. I don't think they're trying to do anything intentionally to me. I think it's just an honest mistake on their part. And if you really are that gender, it's not even a mistake. They're just going by what their own eyes are telling them in front of them. So I don't know where this pronoun ritual came from. It just kind of sprung up. And now it's being used to reframe people as bad or phobic or whatever. Adding pronouns in your profile is telling other people how they should look at you. It's better to just let other people act the way they look at you so you can confront whatever conflict they might have with you head on so you can clear any misunderstanding. Yes, that's what I do. I want to know what people really think of me or their real reaction to me. I don't want them to like fake a reaction just to make me feel a certain way. I want to know who they really are. And you don't get that by forcing people into pronouns that you dictate to them. The most charitable thing to say to a person is to say the truth. Affirmation doesn't help anybody. Another word for affirmation is enabling. Yes. Yes. Oh, this little woke moralist says, you don't know what you're talking about. There are genuine conversations to be had. Well, come on in here and have them. And you have absolutely none of the relevant knowledge to have that debate. And you still think you know. This person gave their opinion on pronouns, and the woke person is saying that they don't have the relevant knowledge to debate. All he's doing is giving an opinion. Pronouns irritate me so much because of stuff like this. Besides, they're third person pronouns. It's not even, you're not even going to be saying them to their face. Who is this person? Search for meaning. Do I need to follow them? Why not? I'm going to check YouTube too. Oh, I think I'm, God damn it. I think I'm streaming on Twitter today too. Yeah. Okay, anyway. Oh, hey, Chris. Good morning. I guess Paul didn't have a show today. So I was going to stream later, but I might as well move it up. Machine is streaming later tonight around 7 o'clock your time. So I want to leave room for that. He's doing one of his all-night streams. Okay, let me see what's going on YouTube. Oh, Dolbez has his new podcast up. Dang it, how do I miss 7 minutes ago? How do I miss these? I don't know if they do theirs live or if they just post it. Are you an open person? Are you a narcissist? Will you stick with your friends in the long run? These are all the questions we try to answer in this episode. Again, that's microscopic problems on YouTube. It's Dolbez and friends from Norway. It's his new podcast. Oh, we had a good stream last night with Cascadian Anarch and Traditional Culture Preservation Society. Talked about all kind of stuff. Synth pop, the 80s, politics. So I still haven't I've been really busy this week for some reason. I still haven't made progress on the Bible. I'm moving into the Abraham story. Tomorrow's book club, 1 p.m. Central. We're still doing that Schopenhauer essay. We had to postpone it from last week. So if you're interested, email me. It's an essay on how to it's kind of a satire on how to debate. It's called How to Be Right, something like that. Man, my voice is really I didn't even talk a lot last night. I hope I'm not coming down with something. I'm still working on the Harold Bloom essay for you on quest romance. There's some Machine Lies does a lot of occult, like history of the occult in science and technology. And I was looking at that Northrop Frye book on William Blake, and he traces a lot of that to the roots, the Renaissance occultist. So I'm working on that too. I might have a little bit to say on that soon. Maybe even tonight. Man, I don't know if I have anything to stream about today, really. There's nothing on YouTube. Let me check history. I'm really just holding the space right now for anybody else that wants to come on and talk. Oh, this is I wonder if he let me stream it. It's going live now. My friend David Tomasi. He's a professor of like psychology and neuroscience, and he started putting his lectures online. And he's doing one now on God, free will, dualism, and neuroscience. Maybe we'll watch a little clip of it. Yeah, you can come on if you want. Let's check in with David. Sorry.
As well.
Damn it. Okay, let's check in with David when it actually starts to work. Come the fuck on. Why are you doing this? Okay, here we go. Try again.
past, but also the vast majority of the culture around us, the idea of consciousness as this divine thing that creates life and gives life meaning and purpose was the most important fact about life itself. Okay? It created a sense of structure, of meaning. It also removed any type of sense of alienation that we might have in our modern societies. The modern Western, quote unquote, world is an anomaly in human history, which is kind of paradox because
Yeah, but it's the anomaly that
we tend to think of
stuck in.
ourselves
That's our
as
contingency.
bright stars of knowledge that will enlighten all other theories, all other
Every
in the world,
age and
all
culture
other
is an anomaly.
histories of obscurantism, dark ages. I mentioned this multiple times. But we are the outliers here. And as beautiful as it might sound to be on the top of knowledge, this messianic form of selfish appreciation for our knowledge does not make it true. So throughout human history, what made more sense, it made so much more sense that it did not necessarily require scientific debate in the modern sense of the term, because the scientific debate is in itself modern. It was something that was obvious to all, okay? Not in the same way, I'm not trying to say that things such as theism was always the predominant force or in the past. I'm not trying to say that, but the fact that life had
I don't have the link.
Purpose and consciousness was
That's
the
weird.
highest,
Let me correct
the
that.
divine power, everything together, okay, creates a sense of non-alienation. So what is alienation?
Why is it fucking up? Stop doing that. You get into the suspenseful part. I want to hear about the alienation. Is my connection going out? Yeah, I don't know if y'all can hear me. My connection is out right now. Fuck. I don't know if y'all can hear me. My connection is really bad this morning. Y'all can blame. I don't know if it's the router. I don't know if it's the roommates playing video games. I think they're all in bed. I don't know if it's our internet provider, but it's been doing this a lot lately. Let me get the link in the YouTube for people that want to come on. God, this is frustrating. It's like slower than dial-up. I'm not happy about this at all. I can't wait to get better internet. Okay, it should be pinned now.
Grounded reason. And this reason is in itself love, goodness, truth, beauty.
Alien.
Even if in the
Alienation
situation
other than alien out.
you feel that the task is too
Outlier?
hard, too difficult to face, you know that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's precisely why we should study consciousness. And that's precisely why at the end of the tunnel, you will be finding the outer circle, so to speak. Okay. So I hope I made my case today for this new awareness of consciousness. And I will leave you with a quote that does a really good job to sum up, perhaps this time as a mini bumper sticker, the type of attitude that you could embrace through life when at least you want to open up beyond laboratory science when you study consciousness. So I'll leave you with this quote, and I will see you all next week. Thank you very much for your attention in this.
Give us a quote. Okay. First go. Glass. Turn the bells off, please. And that's what we'll the glass. God is waiting. Style. Consciousness. I do think consciousness is the ground of our being. It is the foundation for everything, for meaning, for awareness. But where I find my meaning is intersubjectively, and when my consciousness encounters the consciousness of others, I find meaning from other people, from groups, communities, relationships. Me alone, just with my own consciousness, it's not fully meaning yet until it interacts with another consciousness, and that can be in the form of a book, a dead person from the past. It can be in the form of art, music, movies, conversation. But I find my meaning in a larger context of other human consciousnesses. And here is Chris and Juniper.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. I finally figured out how to get my sound to monitor through here so I can hear my voice again, which I don't really love, but
yeah, I hate mine too. So.
But yeah, it's working a lot better now. She's trying garlic bread.
Oh, like human bread, like grown up.
Yeah, human garlic bread. Yeah, yeah. I made some last night, and she's just eating it like crazy.
Oh, well, enjoy.
I'm gonna get up and turn this fan away. Hold on.
Y'all still using the fan?
Yeah, it's hot as hell here in Texas.
Oh. So yeah, I'm gonna have to watch his full video later. I just happened to see that he was premiering his latest lecture.
Yeah, it looked interesting. It sounded interesting anyway.
Yeah, he does good stuff. I watched the beginning of it, but I don't remember what was in it. It was something interesting too. I just don't remember. He started with neuroscience, like just the basic brain parts of the brain, stuff like that. And now he's moving into consciousness and the abstract, philosophical aspects of consciousness.
Yeah, they.
Oh, it was about doubt. Like we doubt. We're aware that we're doubt, and we're conscious that we're conscious as humans.
Where'd you know him from? Did he used to be a teacher of yours or something?
No, just some my communities. You know, I'm part of all those little online networks, communities, nodes, and hubs, and all that. I don't know how I know half the people I know now.
Was a very interesting stream on Cascadian's channel last night. It was really interesting. You took off before the end of it, I guess.
Yeah, I got tired. What did I miss? I saw he didn't go much longer though.
No, I didn't go that much longer. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of interesting things from the other guy that came on there at the end. Pill Eater, I think.
Oh yeah, the from Korea.
Yeah, he talked about some interesting stuff. Yeah, then it kind of petered out because TCPS, is that right? He took off, and then it just kind of there's a little bit interesting stuff there with Pill Eater, and then they ended it about at like the 2 hour something mark. So
I'll go back and catch up.
There wasn't like too much to go back to the end there. You were there for them, all the interesting stuff.
And then tonight's machines night long stream.
I probably won't be there for that much of that, but I'll check it out for a little while. Maybe the beginning of it or so. What happened to Paul today? Do you know?
No, it was very last minute. I don't know.
Yeah,
he said he's going to do it tomorrow instead, since there's no gender fucks.
Yeah, I had the notification on for the stream, and then it suddenly just like disappeared. So I wasn't sure.
Well, Juniper, what's on your mind? What do you think about consciousness since you're developing it as we speak?
If she understood all the words, she'd tell you all about it. She wants to talk so badly.
What age do they start talking?
What's that?
What age do they start talking?
It depends. Like I as a baby, I could speak in full sentences by the time I was 2, but that's pretty unusual. It used to freak people out. My mom says. I don't remember it obviously.
So it'll be a while.
Yeah, she'll probably be able to talk around 2 or 3. That's usually about how long it takes. I mean, language is a really complicated thing for even fully grown adults. So,
yeah. Well, I can't wait to get her thoughts on things.
I can't.
Hopefully, we're around in a couple of years where she can give them.
I think the human race will still be around the next couple of years. I hope so. Anyway.
Oh, I meant like us.
Oh,
this dream.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but no. That's my favorite thing about having kids is as they grow up and they gain their own opinions and start talking to you and telling you what they think about things, and like it might be just things they're really interested in, like a TV show or a cartoon or something like that, but you'll get earfuls of all this really complicated thoughts on, I don't know, like my little one that's now almost a really big one, she really got into Doctor Who for a while, and she could tell you so much about Doctor Who that, I mean, I never really got into it, so I didn't even know. She told me I know most everything I know about Doctor Who because of her. So
when she was a baby?
When she was like 10, 11.
Oh. I'm still here. I'm going to have my camera off for a second.
No problem.
So what's up today?
Well, not much. I mean, I honestly haven't been up that long.
Did you sleep?
Yeah, I finally got to sleep like 3 or 4, and then I woke up pretty early this morning when Lindsay and baby woke up, and then managed to fall back asleep for a little while.
What made the difference?
I mean, I sleep better in the mornings, obviously. I mean, not obviously, but honestly. So, like, if I wake up like I did this morning and I don't get myself too awake, I can usually kind of like fall back asleep for a little bit. I mean, I've been awake for a few minutes, but I just doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Oh, you just got up?
Like relatively, like an hour, But I mean, that was like what I say is that I fell asleep about 3 or 4, and I slept till like 8. Was up for about 45 minutes, and then slept for another 3 hours, I guess. So it was a lot more than I normally get.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I was worried about 2 hours a night.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, it's usually a little bit more than 2 hours, but not much more. Like 3 or 4 usually. Like the night before, I only slept like 2 hours, but I don't know why I'm like that. It's one of the things that works for me about like Adderall as as an ADHD drug is that I usually sleep better if I'm regulated out on it. If I get used to the dose and everything, like
What
I'll
does
be
it do
more
for you?
focused. Keeps me.
Like, how does it help?
But
Huh?
well, you were asking a question. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I said, what does it do for? How does it help you? How does it work?
It makes me a lot more focused. It makes the racing thoughts slow down a little bit somehow. I'm not really sure why that a stimulant would do that, but it does. So I watched a whole video from an ADHD focused channel that explains the science behind the stimulants and how they help ADHD, and it still didn't make much sense to me. So
So that just confirms for me that consciousness is the brain. Like when you change the brain chemistry, your whole consciousness changes. I know that from my own experience with drugs.
yeah,
I mean, there's such a direct correlation between the brain and our consciousness or our thoughts.
yeah, I agree.
I
I
don't
mean,
see
the
how
consciousness
mind
is in
could
the
be this
brain.
independent thing that's separate from the brain.
Well, if it's a independent thing that in the sense of like how let's say your pituitary gland is sort of an independent organ that resides in the brain, perhaps the mind could be an independent kind of thing that resides in the brain but isn't necessarily the brain.
How the pituitary is still part of the brain, huh?
I mean, I
I guess
guess,
we're
but
at semantics at that point, just how you
yeah,
classifying the parts.
that's really what I meant. I
But my
mean, like,
point is, it's physical. It's not this supernatural ghost that's inhabiting your brain.
I never really thought of the mind like that. I thought the soul like that, but not really the mind. The mind is maybe you might say the animating spirit of the brain.
What is
It's
that?
I
That makes even less
not
sense.
that it's actually supernatural, just that in the sense of like the animating energy or whatever you want to call of the brain, you could call the mind. Maybe I don't know. I don't really put a lot of stock in that. I'm just saying like if that's what people are saying, then maybe that's what they mean.
Oh. I just thought of it like when you turn your TV on or your computer, mind is the picture, but it's not doesn't exist separate from the components that make up the TV.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're brain dead, you probably don't have much of a mind.
Yeah. And when you're dead, you don't have any.
Right?
That's why I don't think there's anything that continues afterwards. Because there's no physical structure for it to emanate from.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm always willing to be proven wrong on that, but yeah, I think that makes sense. If someone could actually prove it.
I don't know how you would though. Like you can't prove anything after death.
Yeah.
We don't have access to that information.
Right. There's that whole what was it? um, 28 grams thing. You know, they say the human body loses 28 grams on death. You know, they theorize that's like the soul leaving the body.
So that means the soul has weight. Like it.
Yeah.
So it has to have some kind of materiality, which also doesn't make sense.
They say they've controlled in that for the possibility of it just being like the oxygen or breath leaving the body, but I don't know. I mean, I read a study that talked about that, but it wasn't very convincing, to be honest. Still an interesting concept, especially, you know, in fiction or something like that. Like there was this show that, like, it's not a very good show, but for some reason I like it. It kind of reminds me of the X-Files back in like the early days of the X-Files. It's called Evil. I think it comes on CBS or NBC or something like that.
I think I tried to watch the first episode.
It's about like a priest in training that teams up with this hyper atheistic female. Like, I can't remember what she does and why he chooses her, but they investigate like spiritual mysteries for the Catholic Church. And they have like a techie companion too that's also very, very, like, he doesn't believe in the soul, he doesn't believe in anything spiritual, he's just there to debunk things. And they had an episode where they were doing like this big scientific experiment about like the soul and if it left the body and stuff, and it was a really interesting episode, even though like the show itself is really corny. I don't know why I like it. I don't know. It's got like that old school 80s, 90s kind of like detective show charm to it.
Is it something I would enjoy?
I don't know. You might. You probably appreciate the perspectives in it. I do like the fact that it never. I mean, ultimately, the show is leaning towards spiritual things being real, supernatural things being real, just like the X-Files always lean towards, you know, aliens being real and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's been plenty of episodes where it goes out of its way to make the statement that no, this was definitely not supernatural. Like, these things are, you know, so it's kind of balanced, I guess. It's just like some of the serialized drama parts of it are just kind of corny. But I don't know. For some reason, I like it, and I can't really explain why. It's just
movies that are too. I mean, shows that are too TV, like especially American TV, are hard for me to watch.
Yeah,
there's just a certain style of television that America pulls off that I grew up with, and if it's too like that, then it throws me off. That's why I like all the European and British TV.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer British shows for the most part. I always did, but my mom watched a lot of shows when I was growing up, like detective shows, like Remington Steele, Scarecrow and Mrs. King,
Heart to Heart,
Heart to Heart, stuff like that. And I grew up watching those with her, so I have like a nostalgic kind of like, you know, feeling for anything that has a little bit of that energy to it. There's a show called Keen Eddie that came on Fox whenever I was a teenager, and I used to really like it for that same thing. It had that very similar kind of energy to it. And I was also a big X-Files fan whenever it was on, when it was actually first airing in television and stuff like that. So Evil kind of like walks that line between those two things. Plus, it has just a little bit of this like screw tape letters kind of thing, because there's scenes in it where like when the show opens, it opens with like this demon opening a book, and like it has like these little narrative like things where the demon's like telling like this story, and that's the story of the episode type of thing. And I don't know, I like the whole, there's that show Millennium that Chris Carter that made X-Files also made. And my favorite episode of television, maybe of all time, was from that show. It's literally these 4 old men gathering in a cafe, but in reality they're actually demons, and they're all swapping stories about how they corrupt men's souls and how this one guy keeps like foiling them and stuff like that. And it's really funny and really clever, and it's just really well written. I can't remember the name of it, but the name of the episode, but I wonder if I could find it. I haven't seen that in a long time. Yeah, the show Millennium. I'm just saying the episode itself was like a really unique episode amongst even other episodes of that show. I think it might have been written by the same guy that wrote the really funny episodes of the X-Files itself, like some of the more famous episodes of the X-Files that like have the really heavy sense of humor to it, are written by this one guy. And I can't remember what his name is right now, but anyway, I'll look it up.
You had wanted to talk about I keep wanting to say Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh, 12-ounce mouse.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to hear your opinion if you get through some more of it. I
watched. They're little short episodes, right? They're like just
they're
a
very
few minutes.
short. Yeah.
I watched one to get a taste, and
it's not great.
I didn't hate it.
If you watch the first 2 episodes, they're not really connected to the rest of the show. The show turns into a serialized thing from episode 3 on, and there's a couple of things it references from the first 2 episodes, but they're not really that connected to it. The show turns into a completely different thing. It's almost a philosophical treatise on anarchy versus like totalitarian order. The character of Mouse turns out to be much more akin to the McGowan character from The Prisoner than it does anything about just being a drunk mouse. He's like this agent of chaos in this simulated world. It's very, very strange. It's my favorite TV show of all time. I think it's one of the best. It's more akin to something like a cross between Twin Peaks and The Prisoner than it is anything else that's ever been on television. It's really, really crazy. I have often wondered if David Lynch ever saw it. Not that he referenced it or anything, but like I just wonder if he ever saw that someone made a show that was like kind of very much in line with his sensibilities. It's very surreal. The further it gets, a lot of the humor really is based in like language being twisted in weird ways. At one point, they have this stuff called anti-language gas, and it just makes everyone's ability to communicate break down. And it's a lot of the humor and things like that. It's got a lot of really interesting ideas in it stuff, and I just think the overall the kind of like anarchic energy that Mouse has. I mean, so it kind of reminds me of the kind of the same rebellious spirit that I know that you identify with the Satanism thing, and that's kind of the reason I was wondering what you would think of it the further it gets along, because it's really got this. It's got a really interesting energy to it that you can't really explain, and it gets pretty deep. They brought it back for another season during the pandemic, but then the HBO or whoever the Discovery merger happened, and the new guy came in. He canceled all the future seasons that were going to be. There was going to be a whole new series of it, and they canceled it all. So it's really sad.
Well, I can't find season 1 at all.
It's all on my Plex server. I gave you the link to it. You can watch it on there. Yeah, I have the whole series on there.
Yeah, I think I did watch the very first one.
Yeah, since they're short, if you just watch through episode 5 or 6, because that's about an hour total, I guess. And if you don't like it by then, no big deal. I didn't really get into it until I got past episode 7. Episode 7 is what hooked me to it, because episode 7 is where it first starts getting really philosophical. The stuff in those episodes before that is more like you can't really quite tell what they're doing with it yet, and it's they're building the foundation, but I don't know if you don't like it much by then, I wouldn't ask anyone to invest that much time. I don't know, the baby.
I can't find my library.
He's hungry. Bored.
Your library?
Okay, I found it. I don't like the navigation on Plex at all.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I like the visual part of like having the pictures and everything and how it downloads all that stuff for you, but it's kind of confusing sometimes. I have trouble finding things in my own life, but there isn't a better option. I tried MB for a while and it was worse, so I went back to Plex. Yeah, we can't watch it on stream or anything because it definitely gives copyright strike because it's owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, so they definitely would try to block or something like that. So we can't do it on stream.
I can't find it in your library.
It's under TV shows.
Oh, that's why. Well, hang on.
You should be able to search it though, I think.
Yeah, but it's not pulling it up.
Weird. It might be
it's
way
pulling it up, but it's not pulling up the one in your library.
Let me see here. The TV shows. Because if I go to TV shows and I click on library at the top,
maybe that's what I need. See, that's sometimes. Okay, now I found it, but that's
it's like in the first few things. Yeah, I probably mute it. I don't want you to get a copyright strike for playing the sound from it.
Okay, I think I found it. Hired. Okay, I might watch it later today.
Yeah, let's see. I was gonna say, like, for example, the DVD they released the first season is actually pretty insane because the cover of it's like this The Last Supper. If I can find it. Yeah, it's like this Last Supper thing they did with this show that's that people swear was just like this really dumb show about a drunk mouse. And yet it has this extremely bizarre painting like that they made for the DVD cover that if you have the actual DVD cover, like whenever you hold up the light, you can see all the characters' skeletons, and some of them don't have skeletons. They have like other creatures or character skeletons inside their skin. It's pretty creepy, actually. It's a really a much deeper show than anyone gave it credit for when it was online. I'm a big supporter of it, I guess. Did I freeze up? I froze up on the side.
No, it's probably me.
Now next weekend, but my video's not moving on my side. Weird.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna turn the camera off.
It's not. I can hear you.
That's weird. Let's see, camera. Change the resolution, see if it helps. Sometimes if I switch the resolution up and out, it'll like come back on. Okay. Can't get it to work. I'm gonna drop out of the studio and come back on. 1 second.
Okay.
Cool. Gotta copy the link here.
Ooh. I wonder if I'm not feeling my best right now. Okay, so what was that 12-ounce mouse? If y'all are interested. Dang. I don't know if I'll be streaming that long today. Oh, I keep forgetting. I'm on Twitter. I'm streaming Twitter. I don't get any interaction. I don't even like. Even my tweets don't hardly get any engagement. I don't think anybody sees them. I'm thinking of just giving up Twitter. It seems like the biggest waste of time to be on there, other than to read tweets. I used to have all these friends on Twitter, and we'd post and interact and comment on each other. And I don't see any of them anymore. I don't see any of their tweets. I don't know if they see mine. So I don't know if people are just not active on Twitter anymore, or if the algorithm has me in this little like hole by myself where none of my friends and I are not seeing each other. I don't know. Well, in the meantime, while I'm waiting on Chris, I don't know if I'm streaming tomorrow, by the way. I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, but it might get canceled. If it gets canceled, I'll stream. If not, oh, you know what? I could stream tomorrow evening. I sure could. Like 8 p.m. or something. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe he had to restore his computer. Okay, let me see Twitter.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to reset the whole browser and everything. It wouldn't work no matter what I did.
Oh.
I just turned the boosting thing on the mic in Windows off, and it got rid of the room noise, but then it turned itself back on. I don't understand what the hell's going on here.
Mine does that too. It keeps adjusting my mic gain.
Yeah, it sounds fine without it like that. I don't know why it's doing that. It doesn't need to be boosted, and I don't see a setting that lets me change that. It's just here. Maybe it's because there's two different control panel things. No, it keeps moving it back up. What the hell? Like I can move it down to 50%, and then it starts inching it back up towards 100, and I don't know why. Like, what's causing this? It's so weird.
I don't know. It plays with my mic settings too.
And if it wasn't loud enough for me to hear it, I'd be able to tell.
But you sound fine.
Okay. I just hear all this room noise in the monitor, and whenever it's from this microphone, because I don't hear it if I turn down the boost on it, but then it won't let me turn it down.
The only thing we hear is Juniper in the background making baby noise.
Well, if that's fine then. All right, cool. Anyway, yeah, I don't know why the cam was doing that. It has never done that to me before. It's like every browser has a completely different behavior set with StreamYard and the equipment I have. Like on Chrome, I have access to all the settings, but it crashes constantly or just stops working like almost immediately. It eats up all the memory on my computer, which isn't like a little amount. It's like 16 gigs on this laptop. It's not bad, but it just constantly crashes because I check the task manager, and like it'll show like if I'm running Chrome, it's taking up like damn near half the RAM on the computer. It's ridiculous. Firefox runs better, but then last night it was fucking up on me. And this one, this is Edge now, and it didn't give me any problems till just now. But I couldn't normally whenever my camera has frozen up before, I've just like hit stop cam and turn it back on. It's been fine, but it wouldn't work on this. So it's just strange. Every browser seems to have a different behavior pattern. Maybe I'll try Opera next, see if that knows. Opera is pretty lightweight.
I haven't really used it. I have it, but I never use it.
Yeah, I know. I don't use it much either, even though it's probably more stable and faster than the other ones. I've just gotten so used to. I have so many things bookmarked and kind of set up in Chrome, so that's what I always end up using. But I mean, then again, I haven't been using it much lately. So Firefox pretty much works with all my stuff that's in Chrome. I don't. Maybe Opera might these days, but I haven't tried it in a while. So. Yeah, you got anything you want to check out on Twitter or something like that?
No, I just looked at it. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, it's Saturday. I think people it'd be more busy on there or something.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to stream long today. Then we can.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention like some. If you had any, I want to know if you had any thoughts about the stuff on Cascadian stream last night.
I wanted to talk about the synth pop. That was the most conversation.
Yeah, I like a lot of that. I like a lot of the synth pop stuff actually. When he first mentioned, I thought he said synth wave. Yeah, I was thinking about like the
said
more recent thing.
What was it? Synth wave and something else.
Yeah,
Fuck, what was it
I don't
called?
remember.
Not dark wave. Hang on, I could find it.
I was thinking of the 2000s. Vaporwave, yeah, vaporwave. That's what I was thinking of when he first mentioned it. But then he started talking about it being the 80s synth pop stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I actually like a lot of that.
So it's like the right wing bros now are adopting the 80s aesthetic.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if they're adopting that aesthetic or if they're adopting the vaporwave aesthetic. Which
it's the same one. It's
well, they're a little different.
Tell them apart.
The vaporwave aesthetic is more of an irony-based like thing. It's kind of lame, to be honest. Like kind of like you said, but I mean, I see a little bit of that in that ortho bro things. They tend to use like a lot of them have like Greek or Roman statues as like their avatar icons and stuff like that. I've seen. And that is definitely a part of the vaporwave aesthetic stuff. So I didn't connect the two things until somebody mentioned that, but
I can't tell them apart when I look at them.
Like between the synth stuff from the 80s and the vaporwave stuff?
Between synthwave and vaporwave, when I Google them.
Well, yeah, synthwave and vaporwave in terms of the 2000s aesthetic culture thing, those are the same thing. I just think of like synth.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. I thought you meant the 80s stuff. The 80s stuff is it inspires the synth wave and vaporwave stuff, but it's not the same. It was the original, it's like the vaporwave stuff is like copies of that, but done in like a weird, intentionally bad copy way. I don't know. Like a lot of that stuff, C wave, vaporwave, synth wave, all the wave things that were all very, I don't know. It's all steeped in 6 layers of irony and blah blah blah. It's
what's
kind
the
of
irony?
Weird. I don't exactly understand it. It's because it's like, wouldn't it be funny if I like stuff like this? That's the attitude behind it. Instead of it just being like, I like this, it's like, isn't it so funny that someone like me would like things like this? That's where it comes from. That's the aesthetic attitude, and it's very annoying, to be honest.
I did see something a few years back that the far right had adopted Depeche Mode as their music.
That's really weird.
I thought that was funny.
Like it's like Trump, their personal Jesus. Is that what there's? That would be hilarious if Trump used that as like a campaign song, like walking onto the stage and they're playing like "You're My Person." It's like, just really lean into the whole weird savior aesthetic that the alt-right tried to elevate him to for a while. Yeah, I never, like I said, when I first came across the term alt-right, it pretty much just meant what we think of as centrist now. It's like, it was just like people that were kind of on the conservative leaning side about a few topics, but used common sense and their own kind of like, opinions of things, like they thought for themselves and had like didn't just like toe the Republican line on things. And I thought most of the people that identified as being alt-right at the time were pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, it was Nazis. So it was very sudden too. It was like one day, a bunch of centrist, normal thinking people. The next day, Nazis were everywhere. It was practically overnight. There used to be a forum that the guy that made Dilbert used to have like a pretty bustling message board back then. This is during Obama's second term, prior to Trump really starting to ramp up for the election stuff. And I mean, there was a lot of really interesting thinking people there. I remember having a lot of interesting conversations, and then it really happened really quickly, like the sudden influx of racism and actual Nazis, people that actually espouse.
There's no actual Nazis.
Well, I mean, okay, they're not actual Nazis, but they claimed to be Nazis. The
Nazis themselves, or the left is calling them Nazis?
No, they actually were claiming Nazi talking points and stuff like. It was very weird. I mean, I think it was infiltrated, to be honest.
When was this?
This was late in Obama's second term, prior to Trump really ramping up things. Like, I would say, what was it? Obama's second term was what, 2012 through 2016, right? So it's like 2012, 2013 or so. I mean, it might have been 2014, 2015, but I don't remember exactly. It was it was the guy that made. I was on the forum for the guy that writes Dilbert. Now he's kind of persona non grata everywhere.
Scott Adams,
yeah. Because he had a book that I really liked. What was the name of his book now? It was like How to Succeed. I can't remember, because he had wrote this book, this little like short novella thing that talked about his ideas about God and stuff like that were really interesting. I haven't read any of it in so long. I can't remember what it was now. Let me see here. Look it up real fast, because I think his books were really interesting. How to Fail at Everything, Almost Everything, and Still Win Big.
What's the connection to the Nazis?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. There wasn't anything that people talked about that forum that was Nazi adjacent, but all of a sudden there was a bunch of people that flooded into that forum that just started spouting off a bunch of Nazi shit. And I really think it was infiltrated. I mean, I'm not trying to be conspiracy oriented or anything, but it really seemed like, somebody, like they sent like a co-intel type people or something like that. It was very strange. There was one day there was none of it. The next day it was like everywhere. And yes, it was because of his book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big, that I read, and I ended up going to that forum, and I was that came out in 2013, I think. Yeah, 2013. That's right, at the right time period. I read that and I really liked it, and I went to the forum, and I met a lot of interesting people around that time. And then when the Nazis started coming in, they just kind of dispersed, all the interesting people to stop. But all of a sudden, and that was where I first heard the term alt-right. And I'd never heard of that. I never heard anyone call themselves alt-right before. But then when all the Nazis started coming into the forums, they started adopting the term alt-right. And then before you know it, the term alt-right was all over the media, and it was always referring to them as Nazis. And it was weird. I'm not saying it was a conspiracy. I'm just saying that that's what happened, though. The other one he wrote was God's Debris, and that was also fairly interesting. It's really short. It's like he called it a thought experiment. It's a novella type thing. It's definitely worth reading. I mean, I didn't expect, which it was a friend of mine that turned me on to them. And because I'd always liked Dilbert, but I never really thought about Scott Adams as a novelist or as a writer like that. But yeah, he has this whole thing in it about working systems instead of goals and stuff like that. And it's very, I know it's a really interesting concept, and I don't know how effective it is, but it's still, I like the books.
So it's like it started with the internet. It was an internet phenomenon.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was the alt-right. Like in my experience, now there could have been like things going on in the world in IRL stuff that maybe that term and everything grew out of, but I never heard it before that. That's where I first encountered the term alt-right. First encountered people that actually claimed that title, and there was even a lot of leftist leaning people in that forum at the time. It wasn't even just right people, but leftist people that actually would even use the term alt-right just because, even if they didn't claim it as a label for themselves, they still liked the principles that were being espoused by most of the people that were using that term. And I had a lot of interesting conversation that message board back then with people that were, left leaning and this and that, and it was very similar to the kind of community we have now, like with Paul's Discord, stuff like that. It was very similar to the kind of people we have now. It's kind of what attracted me so much to Paul's, the people in the comments on Paul's videos, and on the live streams and stuff like that, because I started seeing a lot of the things that I saw back then that I was attracted to, and then, like I said, at least thankfully we haven't been flooded by Nazis like that, but it was starting to get some recognition. I think it was starting to build, because there was a growing number of people on the forum at the time. And this was pre-Trump. I think Trump, right around the time Trump announced his presidency, was probably around then. And so like there's people talking about Trump, but Trump wasn't a major component. And then just it was really weird, man. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. There wasn't anything racism, or even race wasn't really discussed around the time. But then all of a sudden, these people that were literal white supremacists, at first, the people in the forum just made fun of them and it just ignored them. But they just kept coming and they kept jumping into everything. And so a lot of the people just kind of scattered and just left. They're like, fuck this, I don't have time to sit around trying to defend myself against Nazis or white supremacists and shit like that. And people just left. And I mean, I did too. I would go back and check every now and then, but I stopped posting and I stopped being involved with it any. Before long, Scott Adams himself, he just shut the whole forum down and deleted it all because of that. Because he was like, I don't know what's going on here, but this is not what I was trying to cultivate. And he deleted the whole forum down. So.
Oh, wow. So they won.
Yeah, they did in that sense. Because, I mean, I don't know what else he could have done, though. It was like a roach infestation. Like, it didn't matter how many people he banned. They just kept coming back. There'd be 20 more of the next day. So I'm going to turn the cam off for a second. I'm going to change a diaper. So I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can still hear you. I can still hear you and talk.
I'm reading about it on Wikipedia. That's why they were going to talk about paleoconservatism last night, but they really didn't touch on it much.
Yeah, I noticed that. They talked about it a little bit at the beginning, or TCPS did anyway.
There's several strands that make up the right, and white supremacy is only one of them.
I mean, I don't really think white supremacy is a right type thing. It seems much more like a left thing to me. Yeah, they're the ones that are so obsessed with race and everything. I've never met.
It's very fringe. Like, it's not even the majority.
Yeah,
of the right. I don't know why people think Republicans are all racist.
I don't either. I guess because if the racists that are out there, the people that actually do espouse that kind of ridiculous ideology and such, I suppose a lot of them would probably identify themselves closer to being Republican than Democrat, I guess. But it doesn't mean anything. It's
So the
like
whole
kind of like,
party gets
yeah, it gets tainted by it. And it's one of those things where like, oh, such and such, like a KKK member was a fan of Trump or whatever, and like I'm not a fan of Trump, but he was rather unfairly maligned for the fact that at one point like David Duke or somebody was endorsing him, and you can't control who endorses you.
Mhm.
There was a lot of violent fascistic types that were endorsing Bernie Sanders and stuff, and then again he also got his image got tainted from that too. People did the Bernie Bro thing. So I mean, it happens. I think it's ridiculous that anyone could be judged by the people that like or watch your content, like that Emma Vigland stuff, like when she was trying to suggest that Tim Pool must be a racist or a bigot or whatever because some guy that shot some people had a clip from his show on his phone or whatever. It was just so stupid. It's not a good argument in any context, but it's one that does tend to trick stupid people. So
yeah, that is that is stupid.
in my opinion, that's pretty much the worst. I mean, anytime I hear of someone making an argument like that, I pretty much just automatically dismiss them entirely. I no longer feel like there's any reason for me to listen to that person because they're not intelligent enough to listen to. There is no, I mean, seriously, anyone who makes the argument, I don't care if they're talking about a leftist or Republican or anybody. I may not like the person they're talking about either. But if your argument is that such and such person is obviously bad because a racist or a white supremacist or or some sort of or a Mao fan, someone who likes Mao is a fan of theirs, that therefore whatever they said must be bad because bad people like it. Yeah, I don't have any time for that person. Unless that person said those things, if they're actually promoting those ideas, then what's your argument? It doesn't make any sense to me. They always.
You already changed the diaper? That was fast.
Yes, it doesn't take long. I've been an old pro at changing diapers. I've always been. I helped raise my two little sisters before I had our first baby, and so I've changed thousands of diapers in my lifetime. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I just every time I hear somebody make an argument like that, it infuriates me. I can't. I
don't
almost
take
can't
people like
deal.
that seriously. I don't even take them seriously enough to get emotional about it.
Well, I guess not. It's especially annoys me when it comes from people that should know better. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
And part of it's just the two-party. There's more diverse political diversity out there than can be captured by a two-party system, but they have to pick one party or the other.
I mean, I wish we didn't really have parties at all, but I guess it's inevitable. We have to be tribal to some extent.
Well, we have like caucuses and stuff that within the parties, so people can still. I mean, we do have our little groupings that are a little more granular than the party level, but I don't think the two-party system's going away anytime soon.
No, I don't think so either. I'm just saying in my ideal headcanon, I think maybe, I don't know. Well, those things I say that, but then I start thinking about it and I'm like, I don't know what the consequences of that would be. If you could actually dissolve the parties entirely and force everything to be kind of like, every man for themselves, it probably wouldn't be better, honestly. It'd probably just be chaos. It's like one of those things, like be careful what you wish for, kind of thing. Actually, getting your wish on that might be way worse than what we have now. I don't know. I do think the ranked choice voting thing is pretty interesting, and maybe a good idea. I'm not aware of too many places that have been implemented it where it's been hugely successful, but I think it's a good idea in principle.
Is that the same thing as the jungle primary?
I don't know what the jungle primary is. I just ranked
We
choice
have
is just where.
Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
What? Go ahead. What is ranked choice?
It's like where instead of going to vote for Trump or Biden, you would make a list of like the people you would most the person your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, your fourth choice, your fifth choice, and they rank all those. They get all those votes in, and whoever gets each ranking is worth a percentage, basically, right? And so whoever gets the highest percentage, even if that means the person who was like the second ranked choice got, if let's say like the vote gets split on choice one, let's say the third party person was like Ron Paul or something, okay, and Ron Paul got way more second choice rankings than either Biden or Trump, then Ron Paul would be president and not Biden or Trump. I'm just trying to use, commonly understood names, but that's basically the gist of it. I think I could be totally wrong. If there's anybody out there listening that knows better than me, please feel free. Come on, tell me I'm wrong. That's my understanding of it.
Oh, I that's kind of the same. Like in Louisiana, all the candidates, whoever gets the highest votes does a runoff, and they don't have to all be from the same party. It's just the top vote getters.
According to Wikipedia, let's see here. Wikipedia, wait. Ranked voting, known as preferential voting or ranked choice voting, pertains to any voting system where voters use their rank to order candidate or options in a sequence from first, second, third, and onwards on their ballots. Ranked voting systems vary based on the ballot marking process, how preferences are tabulated and counted, the number of seats available for each election, and whether voters are allowed to rank candidates equally. An electoral system that utilizes ranked voting employs one of numerous counting methods to determine the winning candidate or candidates. And I think that therein lies the reason why it isn't very popular as an idea, is because it's really confusing to understand who the winner is, like in a really clear. It seems like there's all this kind of like math, like esoteric math happening behind the scenes that ultimately determines the actual winner, that to the degree where I think that people don't trust it, because it seems like it'd be really easy to manipulate in a way where you almost couldn't prove that it was manipulated. Like they could take all this thing behind the scenes and be like, and just basically choose who the winner is, and they say like, well, that's how it was with and like instead of it being like a clean ballot type thing where each ballot is a vote for one candidate or the other, where that's easy enough to tabulate and understand on a basic level. With the ranked choice thing, there's so much math involved in trying to understand like that this candidate got this percentage because of this and this, that I think that people don't trust it, because it would be far too easy to get away with actual vote manipulation and actual election interference. So that's my
They don't even trust what we have now.
I know. But with ranked choice voting, even though I think it's a really cool idea, I think that people trust it even less. I'm not saying that I would. I don't think that it could be any worse than what we have now. But I do kind of see the people that are already paranoid about election interference. I see why they would be weary about that system, and they might be right too. I don't know.
Is our current system so terrible?
I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I don't particularly trust the people that run the elections either. So I don't know that there's any conspiracies going on. It's just people being self-interested.
What do you think happens?
I mean, I think our elections have been right, at least the presidential ones. I think that, I think Biden won. I think Trump won before that. I think that if things are really that rigged and that, so I saw Trump losing this last election coming from a mile away, because even though I couldn't imagine Biden really winning, but he barely won. It was really more like the lack of enthusiasm for Trump anymore that really got Biden into the presidency. It was just that, I mean, I don't think they've been manipulated so far, but I see how they could be. I don't know. I mean, I think our elections have been valid so far, but especially in smaller ones where there aren't as many people paying attention. Like, I think it would be pretty easy to manipulate that sort of thing. But, we're living in a country of this many millions and millions of people. There's no way for us to be able to, each individual verifying with our own eyes that this person won or that, and certainly it seems like doing it via computer or something like that would, you could see how that could potentially could get rid of some of that, but at the same time, that's even easier to manipulate. So, I think it's fine. What we have is probably the best we can do. I used to be anti the electoral system, but I've grown to believe that it's probably for the best anymore.
Yeah, I don't know enough to have an opinion on that. So I'm inclined to just leave it as it is.
Yeah, I mean, not that anyone's going to listen to us about changing the electoral system anyway, but yeah, if I was suddenly put in a position where I was likely to influence that somehow, at this moment I would probably leave it the way it is.
Because wasn't it to protect the smaller states?
Yeah, that's why the electoral system's there, and I think that it makes sense on that level, because otherwise, pretty much California, would just decide the election.
Anything that limits California's power, I'm for.
For real. I mean,
and I've already, living in Washington State, I've seen what happens when you have a city like Seattle that controls policy for the entire state.
Yeah, because if we went entirely on population basis, we didn't have the electoral system, pretty much whoever won in California, I think California, Washington State, and a couple of other states, and New York and something else, would be the entire election. Now, it's not a lot better than that now, because a few swing states pretty much decide the election as it is, but at least those few swing states is better than it pretty much being just as race down to California,
Yeah.
Because California is
I like the swing states having that kind of power.
Me too. Yeah, I think that's really for the best. I don't see people talk constantly about how evil or wrong the electoral system is, but I think you tend to find that those people live in places like California, where they think they would rather it be where California decided the presidency every time. So,
I mean, they're already getting, their influence is already outsized, and they're getting pretty much everything they want. I wouldn't want them to have more ability.
I would not
do that. And I've also seen what happens when too much California comes to other locations.
Yeah, it's happened to Texas. Texas is a lot more purple now because of the massive number of people that left California and flooding into Austin and stuff like that. Which, I mean, Texas has always been a little purplish. It's never been nearly as hard red as people want to make it out to be. But it's always leaned more to the Republican than the Democrat. But now even anymore, my understanding, I mean, Dallas has always been, I think it's kind of been a toss up. I think it's gone blue in many cases, it's been red in many cases. But the state as a whole is so massive, and there's so many people live outside of the major population centers that it keeps it kind of even like that. But yeah, it's the number of people that flooded into Austin and Dallas during the pandemic. It certainly, but it still leans. Ultimately, it's still more of a Republican state than it is a Democrat state. But I mean, not that that's necessarily better. But I think in Texas in general, I have found that there's a lot more centrist type people. And back before the pandemic and everything, I used to go out a lot and went to shows and stuff like that. I met a lot of people around here that were just generally intelligent that weren't tribal, politically speaking. And now I'm not saying that my experience with those people is representative of the state as a whole, but I mean, I grew up in Texas. I've lived in Texas more of my life than anywhere else, and my personal experience is that people here tend to think for themselves. So it has nothing to do with the state. I'm just saying, like, the people that live here in general, my experience with them. But I never go to my way to spend time with people that aren't like that. So, you know, I gotta have my own bubble, I guess, you know.
Yeah, me too.
I try to get out of as much as I can, but I mean, there's certain types of people I have a really hard time forcing myself to want to spend time with. You know, like if I had to, like, if getting my bubble meant I had to, like, spend an inordinate amount of time with a Vosh or something, I don't know if I could do it. You all right, man? Seem a little distracted.
Yeah, I don't think I could either. My roommate's as close as it comes. He's a Vosh fan, and we argue all the time.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
Because he's as passionate about his political values as I'm about mine. So when someone's like people that don't really care about politics is one thing, but people that have very passionate positions and opinions, that's where it gets hard to keep the conversation going.
Like, I can be friends with somebody who has differing opinions from me. I have no problem with that. It's whenever it becomes like angry and like they're gonna start trying to call you names and stuff, or trying to call you a Nazi because you don't toe the progressive line or something like that. That's I can't deal with that. I mean,
it's even the like the biases, like Rowan and JJ McCullough and people like that. They, like, when you're talking to them, they have obvious biases that I think interfere with a more balanced conversation. But then I probably have some too. Like to their eye, I probably have what appears to them as biases.
I mean, I know I have biases, but I also know that when someone points it out or points out something that's the opposite of what I might automatically think, I'm more than willing to listen to them. And many times I'm more than willing to change my mind. If someone can give me good data or good reasons to think differently, you know, I totally am flexible in that. I've even talking to Rowan, for example, I had a conversation with him in the voice chat or the video chat or whatever on Paul's Discord, and I mean, I butted heads with him several things, but he also made some good points that I actually, you know, I can see it, like, you know, hey, I'm probably maybe wrong about that. I mean, I've always known that I have the ability to be flexible like that, but it's weird because, like, I respect that. When I see other people do that, I respect it. But when other people see you doing that, they think that you're just soft or something. They think that you're, you know, that you don't believe in anything strong enough. It's like in general, it seems like people are much more attracted to someone who's bullheaded and stubborn about things they might even be obviously wrong about than they are about someone who's willing to listen and learn. I don't understand that. That's a mentality I don't understand.
Is it the level of defensiveness you have about something? Is that an index to bias?
I would think so. I don't know. Maybe not. I've never seen a study or anything that tells me that, but I mean, it feels that way to me.
Yeah, well, I definitely have biases then.
Well, we all do. Everyone's biased when we're in there. It just matters how open you are.
But it's how they impact conversation. Like when you're trying to have a rational, logical conversation, which I don't think people are 100% purely rational, logical anyway. So that's when it shows up for me, where I can clearly see the argument, but they can't quite meet me where I am in the argument because of their defensiveness. But then I know people try to make arguments with me, and I have the same reaction. So I guess that's the point of having these conversations, but it's how to get past that defensiveness to where you can actually genuinely see the person's argument.
Right. The only thing I've ever heard you do that with is just like your reaction to anything that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but you're usually right about most of that stuff. So,
well, yeah, I know. I definitely am. I wouldn't call it a bias, but I default to skepticism when it comes to, like, you really have to show me evidence to get me to buy into some of these conspiracy theories. But I also have a bias against women and towards men. I'm going to tend to defend and believe the male position because I've seen what feminism does.
Yeah, sure.
And I have a bias currently toward the right over the left because the right seems to be more sane and grounded about the traditional values that I grew up with.
Yeah, they definitely are right now. But at the same time, you like the Barbie movie, so you're not that against women. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I love the Barbie movie.
I know.
In fact, I'll probably watch it again.
Yeah, definitely. No, I don't think you're. I think you perceive yourself as a heavier bias against women, I think, than you really do. I mean, you get. But
it's from. I didn't start out that way. It's from experience.
Right. No, I get that. I'm just saying I've never seen you show any real serious bias against women. I mean, you have Emerald and you had and Carol on your stream and stuff like that. Sarah. Sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was Carol for some reason.
I do the same thing. I call people by what they look like. That's why I'm so bad with pronouns. There was a girl I was friends with. Her name was Laura, and I kept calling her Julie. Like the whole time I knew her, I called her Julie because she just looked like a Julie. I couldn't. Laura didn't make sense as her name, so I can't even get personal names right, much less pronouns. If you look like something, that's what I'm gonna call you.
Yeah. Yesterday we went to a thrift store to find a couple little, like a couple of shirts for her, just like something we spend a couple of dollars on because she's growing out of stuff. And there's this girl in there that looked just like this girl I knew in Vegas. I mean, she looked like an exact clone of her, like from the time I knew her. I don't think that girl looks that way anymore. I think she's she got older and everything. But it was just weird. Like whenever I went up to the counter, she was like one of the people at the checkout thing. Like I had to tell myself like don't call her Genevieve because like my brain was like this. It just kept defaulting to like this. That just looks like her, Reminds me of that.
That's what brains do. I mean.
And then she spoke, and she had she was actually Latina. She didn't look Latina, but she was actually Latina. She had a Spanish accent, and that broke the spell of it. It reminds me of this Emo Phillips joke that he used to tell.
I love him.
Yeah, he has this joke where he talks about the other day. It's like the other day, I saw a boy I used to know when I was 8, and I went up to him. And I asked him how his mother was and stuff, and he just ran away crying. And then I thought, oh, that's right. He wouldn't be 8 anymore.
Wait, I don't get it. What was the punchline?
That he went up to this boy he knew when he was 8. He saw a boy that he knew when he was 8, right? He saw someone look like a boy that he knew was 8. And he went and talked to him as though he was still this child he knew when he was 8. And he didn't realize the kid ran away crying that kid wouldn't be 8 anymore. He'd be an adult like him.
Why was the kid crying?
Because it was a stranger that came up to him, was asking him about his parents and all this stuff, asking him all these personal questions.
He didn't recognize Emo?
No, because he didn't know him. It wasn't the same kid. He wouldn't be 8 anymore. He'd be his age.
Oh, the guy Emo went up to wasn't the same.
Yeah. It was he saw somebody that looked like a kid that he knew when he was 8. He saw a kid that looked like
an adult that looked like a kid.
No, he saw a child.
That's what I didn't get. This was a kid.
I didn't tell it right.
Like a kid he used to know.
And the honestly, the first time I heard, crying. Yeah, the kid ran away crying.
That's the part I missed.
He saw a boy he knew. It's somebody just a boy that just looks just like a boy he knew when he was 8. He went up to him, talking to him as though he was still an 8-year-old boy, and the kid ran away crying. And then he realized he wouldn't be 8 anymore. And then it's a joke that honestly, I didn't get it the first time I heard it either. So it didn't hit me till 2 days later, and I stuck with me ever since then. What do you want to do, kiddo? She's bored, I guess. He's bored. You want to say hi?
Yeah, it feels like a lazy Saturday. There's not much going on.
Here.
Hey, look at her. I love her energy.
She likes to be. She sees herself. She sees you. She's waving. Yeah, she's waving. Hi.
Look.
He's like, I want to have my own show. My own show.
Oh, it's only a matter of time.
Right? I know everybody's gonna have a show before you know it, right? Gonna be that there's a joke I heard on a episode of Garfield and Friends the other day I was watching with her, because I don't know. I have this tendency to default to cartoons I watched when I was a kid. I just find them on YouTube. And I figured, like, I liked when I was a kid, so why wouldn't she? And she usually watches them pretty well. But it was like some joke where Garfield was saying something about how, like, there was a show on that was like a talk show hosted by some postman from North Dakota. He was the only person in America that didn't have a talk show, and now we have one. And that's actually the world we're heading into now. Like,
Oh yeah. I wish everyone did have a stream. I wish all my friends had streams and my family, and I could just drop in on their streams when I wanted to catch up. You wouldn't even need Facebook anymore. You just go visit your mom's stream and see what she's up to.
I just don't know what I would do with a stream of my own that I don't do talk to you. I don't really want to do it if I had people to talk to. I'm not really.
It is better. I do like it better with doing it with other people.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I could do the whole like one man alone stream thing, especially if I didn't have an audience at first, because if I didn't have any comments to react with and I didn't have any people to talk to, I would just feel like, well, why am I doing this? And I would just.
Well, that's why I stopped streaming. My first attempt earlier this year, there was nobody watching. So I said the motivation to continue doing it every day was much diminished because there was I was just talking to the void. But with StreamYard and the panels and the stream, like I learned how to at least get a few people on, and that made it all the difference. So now if I just hold a little space that people can drop in on when they want, that's more than I was doing before.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I think it's worked really well for you and your stream here. Of course, I mean, I come on it like every day now, but that's because I was thinking like maybe I should start one or start a channel or something. But I was like, well, I would just be doing the same thing, so I might as well just come on.
You could if you had a like, because you were thinking of doing some video work and stuff too.
Yeah.
So if
I do that. Yeah, if I do that, I definitely will.
But if you wanted to start a channel, I would go on yours. And
it doesn't seem like I just don't see the point would be. It would just be like we'd be doing the same thing on your channel or on my channel. It would just be like this weird. I guess we could create like a channel that's like our a collective channel or something. But I don't know. I don't see the point in creating a channel for me. Just for you to come on that one, and then I go on yours. Like we get bored on one channel, and we'd be like, "Let's go over the other channel." It was like on the next thing, you know.
That's what we need to find more more streams to go on to as a team. And
I think that was really fun with Cascadians last night. I would have gone on if he had opened it up for panelists. I would have gone on there and talked.
He did at the end. I saw him put the link in the room.
But now,
he was asking specific people.
He didn't see it. Yeah, he only put it up for that one guy because he wanted TCPS to talk to him because he was an actual Aborigine. But yeah, I didn't feel like it was an open invitation for anybody to click on it, so I didn't do it.
Well, we could maybe go on Machines tonight. He opens it up, but he gets a lot of the trolls. Like there's some people that I won't go on when they're on because I just don't even want to share a screen with them because they're just such trolls. I have nothing to say to them. They dominate the whole conversation with their buffoonery, and the kind of conversations I want to have are not compatible with what they're on there to do when they're.
Yeah, for real. If we will go over there and like that toilet bowl Earth guy or something is even in the comments, I don't know if I'd stay. I mean, why would I want to subject myself to that? I mean, it's not going to help our stream out or your stream out any. It's not going to it's just going to be like it's sitting there and getting yelled at. I don't see the point in it. I tried to watch some more of that stream last night after Cascade stream was over. I clicked on a couple of the Machine Lies things. I just try to click through them a little bit, just try to find some interesting conversation there. But like that one that you were on, man, like except the beginning of it actually has some interesting stuff. And then when that guy comes on, man, it's pointless from that forward. I skipped through like 30 minutes at a time until you left. And even after you left, he was still there, still dominating it. I don't know what the point.
I woke
why
up
would
the
you let
next
that happen?
day, and that's when that drama. I woke up the next day, and I found out there was all this additional drama when I wasn't even on the stream anymore between Machine and Toilet Bowl, and then
Yeah.
that's the drama that kept perpetuating the last month.
And
So
he's an
whatever,
ortho bro.
huh? Yeah.
He's an
Well,
ortho bro.
yeah, I think he is.
He didn't say anything about being orthodox or anything during all of it. He just called people names and used, you know.
Yeah, he's if that's orthodox, like if that's the,
Yeah,
the
really.
representative of what this new orthodoxy is, it's not very enticing to me.
I am with you on that. I haven't seen anything that was enticing about orthodoxy in the first place. I've never the orthodoxy seemed all that interesting. It's just Catholic adjacent, just without the Pope. So I don't know. I don't particularly find anything all that great in that.
I have a Twitter friend that's Orthodox, and we have the best conversations. Like we could talk for hours about philosophy and symbolism and art, and they're just fast. And he's Orthodox, so I thought like all the Orthobros were going to be more like him, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, this is similar thing when it comes to you, man. I mean, you claim the title of Satanist, and you're really cool and interesting. But I've met lots of Satanists in the past or people that claim that title that were insufferable. So I mean,
I don't even.
It doesn't really matter.
Maybe a label. I want to meet
label,
more. I can't find where the cool Satanists are, but I really enjoy talking to Satanists and hanging around them. They're just my people, but I want to meet more of them.
I mean,
I just don't know where to find them. They're all woke.
I don't think that any label or anything can ever encompass the people I consider my people. I've always had a rather diverse group of people. In any place I've lived prior to this, like when I've had like friend groups, stuff like that, I never had just like one type of person, in there. It's always been people of various diverse thinking types and personality types and everything like that. That's the way I've always preferred it. I mean,
well, me too. Like growing up in small towns in the South, you take what you can get. You pick up a person here, a person there, and it's all on their individual characteristics.
I mean, growing up in Texarkana, I mean, I had our main friend group. We had like 3 or 4 white guys, a couple of guys that were black, one Asian guy, an Asian girl too. I mean, they were just pretty much Americans. They weren't Asian in culturally speaking, but their parents were Korean, and I mean, several people that. Heck, we didn't even think of like people that had like people that were Mexican descent. We didn't even think of them as anything besides white. They were just, they weren't like Latinos. They were just like whites. Yeah, there's Hispanic whites. Like we didn't really think about any of them being one color or the other. I don't know. That's never been something that made a lot of sense to me because I grew up knowing a really diverse group of people, and so when you really encounter actual racism, it's really jarring because it's just like it seems like people really do that. I mean, I've heard about it on television, but I said the biggest blinder I had growing up was probably the fact that I had never met a Jewish person until I was like 19. Whenever I went to the first time I went to a therapist, and he was Jewish, but I didn't realize until then I'd never met someone who was actually really Jewish. And he was really Jewish. He was like actually like a New York Jew type. I don't like somebody you see in a Woody Allen movie.
We didn't grow up with Jewish people either, but I met plenty of Jewish people, but I don't know what makes them Jewish. Yeah. Like they seem like every other American that I know. To this day, I don't know what Jewishness is or why it's a big deal for people, because every Jewish person I've met, they don't seem that different.
Well, they don't, but I guess it's more like I mean culturally Jewish. Like he was really. I don't mean like Hasidic Jew. I just mean
just normal Jewish. They dress like us. They talk like there's nothing. They're not this weird exotic culture to me. I couldn't tell them apart from white people.
I mean, they aren't really
or any other American. So I don't like Jewish carry this meaning for everyone, but I could never understand what
kind of
that
the
was.
therapist had like this kind of cadence to his voice. He talked like a character from a Woody Allen movie. He did originally come from New York. I don't know why he ended up.
That's more regional to me than
it totally is.
ethnic.
But that's still the first person I ever met in my life that I recognized as being specifically Jewish. But that's because he talked about it, though.
Jerry Seinfeld and aren't they Jewish? Like
I think so.
Larry David. I can't tell them from any other sitcom. Like there's nothing that makes I can tell the Jeffersons. It's like a black sitcom or Good Times, but I can't tell what makes a Jewish sitcom Jewish. It just looks like a bunch of white Americans on screen doing American things.
Maybe I've confused, or maybe back then at least, I confused Jewish for just being a New Yorker then, to be honest, because I think it's more of a New York thing than anything. It seems like a lot of those signifiers are really something that's more connected to like the New York, like I said, like Woody Allen or Larry David. You know, there's like that certain kind of...
I love Larry David.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, there is kind of a Jewish humor, I guess, but
yeah.
Like when people talk about the anti-Semitism and the Jews are running the world and we hate Jews and all that, why? Like,
I don't get it
what is it about these people that are so bizarre to you or objectionable that you can single them out and have all this hatred toward them? It like meeting a Jewish person in person, it's not obvious to me why somebody would differentiate someone as a Jew and much less go out of their way to hate them.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I've never understood that. Anytime I've been around anyone who made an anti-Semitic little comment, even if it wasn't a joke, anyway. I mean, I later on after that, like I became friends with somebody at one point who had once again, just a white guy, but he did have a more Jewish type family, and he talked about being Jewish, made jokes about being Jewish, and stuff like that. And so, like, I mean, like if that was one thing, he would say some things I guess would be considered anti-Semitic, but they were jokes about himself. So, but I've never understood it. I was just like why? I've never understood people that are genuinely believe that Jews are evil, and I've never understood. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, like I do understand culturally. I see a lot more reason. I don't think it's not a good reason. It's not justified, but I see how people see, white people could see themselves being different from black people, especially culturally. And like, there's a different skin color and everything. And like, there's some differences there. I don't think there's any reason to hate someone for those differences, but I see how there's differences. But yeah, I agree. Most Jewish people just seem like white people. I mean, I guess if we're talking about Israel Jews, then they're, it's a much more ethnic type difference, but I mean, I've only met a couple of people online that were from Israel. When I was younger, I used to talk to a couple of people. This one girl and a guy I used to know, like when I used to like go on chat programs, stuff like talk to people, and they were both really, really nice kids. I mean, I can't imagine why anyone would hate them just because. I understand hate based on region or color or ethnicity anyway. I don't understand it.
Like tribalism, but they don't seem like a different tribe.
Yeah, I know.
My point.
Maybe some people just need something to hate.
Like if you know a black person when you see them, that's a black person. I don't know a Jewish person until they tell me they're Jewish. There's nothing obvious that signals tribalism to me.
Yeah, you just as easily come across a white guy that might have those signifiers in their personality, but they could not be Jewish. They could just be from New York, just grew up around those kind of people. So yeah, it doesn't really make any difference. I don't know how anti-Semitism became a thing. I guess it became a thing way, way, way back. It's been around for a long time, but I've never. I don't understand it.
And I think there's different reasons for it, but isn't one of it like they killed Jesus or something?
Supposedly, that's where it starts from. But I mean,
and
Jesus was still technically Jewish.
Didn't the Romans kill Jesus?
Yeah, but the Jews, they helped, basically.
Well, specific Jewish people, not the entire Jewish race.
That's what. I don't get that either. I don't understand why. So you identify that this person is from a group of people, and therefore that group of people must be all like that person. It doesn't make sense. It never does. The same thing that people do with white people now, like, you know, oh, you're a white male, so you must be an oppressor type shit. You know, it's just so stupid. Like I'm not. I have no power. I can't oppress anyone even if I wanted to. I don't want to. But if I did, I wouldn't be doing a good job of it. I don't have any economic advantages. I don't have. I'm living on food stamps and subsidized internet. You know.
Yes, I have no privilege. Show me this privilege that I supposedly have, because I have not seen it my whole life. But so, I'm Cajun too. I'm not even white. We were oppressed by the same white people that they think I am. Like that.
Right.
That's so offensive to be painted by the group that also oppressed you.
Right? Yeah, I know. Like I'm technically a second generation immigrant, so I'm not even like like I said, I'm half Spanish, so I'm not even technically all that
Do you
white.
check that on the boxes when you fill out forms? I put, if there's a space for ethnicity or other, I use it.
I have before. At other times I haven't, but I have if I had any reason to think that it might make a difference. I guess I don't know. If I was at this point, like when I've been filling out applications, yeah, I've definitely checked the Hispanic or Latino one because technically I can, but I
Are
don't.
you like, what is it, not Hispanic white?
Yeah, I'm like a Hispanic. Yeah, Hispanic white. I guess I don't know what every single application has different classifications on it. Sometimes they don't even have anything. Sometimes there's a separate category for Latino from Mexico than there is from Latino from other parts of the world. I don't identify as Latino, obviously, but I don't understand why anyone does in the first place, really. I mean, I don't understand why anyone feels need to identify as any kind of group. I just think that it's dumb. But yeah, people do. People really get really caught up with that crap.
Well, culture's important. Like being from a culture, it is important. Like there's definitely something about being Cajun that's different from just being American. So I identify with it because I think I'm giving specific information about me and my background. But people that don't know what Cajun is, it means nothing to them. They just see me as a white guy. The argument is that it. Okay, let's see. We got
the argument that's in the system.
Is that it is in the system. All that I don't understand the systemic stuff. I don't understand what something means to be in the system. Is it this like invisible power, spooky whiteness at a distance? This supernatural force that affects people's minds. I don't understand this systemic stuff. Systems are people. It's individual people acting on their biases, making choices, making decisions consciously. Like the example of if there's a black person in the hospital and they hit a call button, people are going to take more time to answer them than they would a white person. If somebody's doing that, they're consciously, they know they're doing it. They know they're not going to that patient as quickly as they are other patients. Probably because they're racist, but I think the amount of people that are doing that is like this small.
Right, I agree. Who do we know this guy? Do we know podcast? Is this someone they should come on and tell us what they mean by that?
Yeah, you come on if you want.
Please do. If you hear us out there, I don't know if you're still there, but yeah,
Especially
I'd like to hear
the whole crew.
Yeah, definitely. They have a custom icon for their avatar and everything, so there. Yeah, because I don't really understand that argument exactly either. I could see how some people could have unconscious biases in that sense, like an unconscious degree of racism. But because there are a lot of people that don't think a lot about this sort of thing.
I have this argument all the time. People that are biased know they're biased. Like if you don't like black people, you don't just suddenly realize, oh, I don't like black people. All this time I thought that I liked them, but if you have an aversion to black people, you're probably aware of it. I don't see the unconscious part.
I don't know. In the left, I see it. I see a lot of people that really think that they're advocates and what they call themselves allies. There's some allies to LGBTQ people or to the Black Lives Matter movement, stuff like that. But really, they're I don't think most of them are conscious of the fact that most of the things they do are actually rather racist.
Well, that's being conscious of your actions or the consequences, but they're conscious of how they feel towards black people. Surely.
I don't think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them think they really love black people, but if they actually were around them, they would not act in a friendly manner. I think they would, if they were actually around like someone who's actually from the ghetto or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
and
they
it
do.
really it has very little to do with race. It's really about class. I think most of them just are having an aversion to poor people.
But they're when they are around a ghetto black person, they are conscious of the effect that person's having on them. They're conscious of they're conscious of, oh, this person is getting on my nerves. I don't like this person. It's not like they're having this harmonious interaction with them and they're not aware that they would prefer to be around somebody else. It's the unconscious. I have no problem with bias, but it's the unconscious part. I don't know how you can have a bias and have it influence you and act on it in any way and not be conscious, like have that not be part of, like, into your consciousness.
I don't think a lot of people are that self-aware.
I just don't believe that.
I wish I didn't, but I've
People
encountered
know
it too much.
what they like and don't like. They're not unaware of how they're responding to. People do it all the time on movies and TVs. They know which characters they like. They know which characters get on their nerves. They know which ones they hate. People are not clueless about their responses to other people.
I don't know.
If you're in a grocery store and like this thug looking rapper guy comes in and starts like casing the aisle and stuff, you know if you're having a reaction to that or not. You're not just innocently shopping and then saying, oh, I didn't realize I had bias against this black guy. Your alarms go off the minute you see him in the aisle if you have a bias against black people.
I mean, I don't think most people have a bias against black people per se. Like I said, I think they have a bias against people that they perceive as looking like a threat to them, and that person may or may not be black or something else, and that gets confused into race. It get mixed up with race, but yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. I know why you're like where you're coming from that, because there's a lot of these people that claim that, you know, everyone on the right or something is unconsciously the whole anti-racist.
Not everybody on the planet, not even on the right. The left are the people that's just aware of it and are doing the work, but they have
supposedly.
It too.
But they're worse than the right.
But yeah, like everybody has this that is actually biased toward black people, and they're not aware of it. Every white person is. I don't believe that. It's more confusing than unconscious. How do I place their value when perhaps I don't understand the it's more confusing than unconscious. Like they get confused, but they're aware that they're having some kind of reaction.
Yeah,
how do I place their value?
Come explain that.
When perhaps racism confronts morality. What morality?
I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm not so sure what he means. I wish he'd called in.
The fucker.
The fucker. Yeah, I mean, I do think that I don't think it's impossible. Let me say that. I don't think it's common for that to happen. I don't think it's impossible for someone to be so basically self-absorbed that they're completely unaware of their biases in that sense. I've seen people that I think that were genuinely like that before, but I think that it's probably very rare. It's a very small number of people. I do know a lot of people are just not that self-aware though, like, about their own way they act.
You don't think people know when they don't like somebody?
Yeah, but I don't think they would recognize it as being, and it has nothing to do with race, probably. I'm just saying that I'm saying that they could act in a way that could be perceived as racist, even if they're not actually racist, because they tend to. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if I can really back up that statement. I mean, I tend to. I'm trying to play devil's advocate with what you're saying. That's all. I'm just trying to trying to look at it from both sides. I've definitely met some NPC types before, people that were just seemed almost entirely oblivious to the way other people perceive them, the way they act.
Well, I
know,
have that, but
well, I mean, everybody has it to
different
some
from
degree.
being
But
aware of
like,
bias.
I don't
Like
know.
I'm talking about people that treat black people differently than everybody else, but are not aware that they're doing it. I believe if they're treating black people differently consistently, then they are aware of their feelings toward black people in relation to everybody else.
They might have difficulty with racism when they're confused with their own interpretation of a generalized value and the correct value or moral value. Okay. Yeah, that's a good comment.
They might have difficulty with racism. I don't know what a generalized value is or a correct moral value. This sounds woke. Is this the woke position?
I don't know. If it is, I'd like to hear from them.
Yeah, you're welcome to come on and talk.
I mean, I don't know this person, but I think their comments are rather intelligent sounding. So, I mean, even if they are woke, I'd like to hear their particular side of a woke argument, because they seem to be more articulate than a lot of woke people are. So.
I was talking, I don't know, some conversation recently, because I do in the work that I do, I interview multiple people all day long, so I'm exposed to a range of people, and I have to evaluate them, and it's mostly objective, but there's some subjectivity that enters into it. And somebody made the point that if they could show a pattern to that, I'm evaluating people with, let's say, everyone that has green earrings, I'm giving them lower scores without realizing it than I'm giving everybody else that doesn't have green earrings.
Right.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that I would be consistently giving a low score to somebody with green and not realize that I'm doing it. Like, that would just be a coincidence to me. There'd have to be a conscious reason for me to be evaluating those people lower. But they're saying that unconscious bias is like I'm doing it. I'm reacting to the green earrings, but I don't realize that I'm doing it. And the scores are lower, but I don't really know why they're lower for that group. That's how they explain unconscious bias. And that sounds so far-fetched to me.
I mean, I could only see that if that was like a thing where like maybe you had like an early childhood trauma thing with something that involved a green earring and like it got mixed up in your brain, but you weren't conscious of it. And maybe there were people that, I'm not saying this happens with you, but I'm saying maybe set this imaginary person, anytime they saw someone with green earrings, they did know they didn't like the person, but they didn't realize it was because of the green earrings. I could see that, where like the green earrings was giving them like a negative reaction to the person, but they didn't know it was because of the green earrings, because of like some early child. I mean, that's theoretical.
I don't believe that. That
right.
puts us at the mercy of so much invisible influence and stimulus. Like, every one of us could be walking around with these hidden aversion to anything and not realize it. Like, when you're dealing with that level of consciousness, you can make a case for anything. So if you're not even aware of it, how is somebody else an expert that they're able to come in and say, "Oh, Chris, we've noticed you have a bias against green earrings"?
Oh, yeah.
They could say you have a bias against people with gold buckles on their shoe. Like, they could pull anything. They could see a pattern, pull anything, and then insist that you have a bias against that thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's not anything that should be actionable. I mean, it wouldn't be. I mean, I don't think it would be common or even very likely. I was saying, like, I could theoretically see how something like that could happen, but I don't think that it would be. I don't think that it's as common as they say unconscious bias is when it comes to race and gender and things like that. I mean, once again, like you yourself, you say you have an unconscious bias against women, for example.
It's not
But
unconscious though. I don't call
yeah,
it
it's not.
unconscious. It's
I'm
fully
sorry.
conscious.
Sorry. I
And
used that word by accident.
I know when it started. Like I know what the bias used to be, and I know when it started to change, and all. Like I could trace the whole history of the bias consciously.
I completely know that. I accidentally said
Even
the word
with
unconscious again.
animals, with dogs. Like if you treat a dog a certain way, they're going to make the associations with that type of person. Like if a mailman is spraying a dog in the face, then all the future mailmen he's going to have a bias against. But the dog's conscious of that.
Well, it's to the degree that a dog is conscious, but it's there. I agree. No, I didn't mean to use the word unconscious there. I just said the word unconscious, the term unconscious bias so many times that when I said the word bias, I put the word unconscious for it. I meant like I was saying that you said a claimed bias against women, but I've seen you don't act biased towards women that I've seen because you're conscious of it.
Because I filter all the ones out that
right.
do that.
But
like,
you could even say then that it's not really a bias against women. It's just since a certain type of women that are
the majority.
Except racism,
a small few that make it through the filter. Think of racism as being scared of difference. So I understand that. I understand tribalism. I understand in-group, out-group preference or bias. But we have evolved beyond and learned we are similar, even though different in color. Yes. So you think you are racist, but you lost me at the last line. Because I agree. I think the norm for American society is what you describe in the second sentence. Most of us recognize that we're more or less similar. Like there's more that unites us than the superficial characteristics that divide us.
So, DeFucker, I guess that's how I call that. Are you trying to explain the position, or are you saying that's what you think? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Like, are you saying that you think that's true, or are you trying to explain that position that people are saying when they talk about unconscious racism? If you could tell us that. I'm just curious.
Meanwhile, I'm going to look up what he has to say. Okay, here's Psychology Today.
I know there's tons of woke studies out there that claim that they have evidence for that stuff. I've just never been convinced by any of them myself.
There's a ton of woke studies that say a lot of stuff that has no correspondence with reality.
I mean, I think that because race, especially skin color, is such an obvious in-your-face sort of thing, like like that's the reason why I see your position. And I think you're probably right about that when it comes to skin color, because it's just too obvious of a thing that if every single person you ever come across with black skin, you have this revulsion towards or something like that, it'd be pretty obvious to you after a while. But I could see how it could happen with something more subtle. I'm not saying I think it does, but I'm saying I see how it could. It reminds me of sitcom News Radio. There was an episode of that show where the boss character Jimmy James, he has this horrible hatred and this revulsion towards hippies, what he thinks are hippies. And he's had this for his whole life, and it makes him really angry. Yes, he's conscious of it. But then towards the end of the episode, it turns out that it wasn't hippies because he had this bad experience when he was younger where he got like beat up or something or robbed by a hippie. But then then later on, he realizes, I can't remember what happens. It was like his regression therapy or something like that. But then he remembers that, oh, they weren't hippies. They were Hell's Angels. And his whole life, he got it confused in his head because they had long hair, and he confused them with hippies for some reason and went around hating hippies his whole life. But it turns out he didn't have a bad experience with hippies. He had a bad experience with Hell's Angels bikers that beat him up and robbed him at some point or something like that. And so, I mean, I could see it being something like that, but I mean, it's a pretty ridiculous and obviously over the top example, but I mean, I just would make me think of. The value of not being racist is placed in the culture, and you think you believe the value of the culture. However, the tribalist scared of difference part is placed unconsciously in you naturally.
Placed by whom?
Yeah,
I
okay.
actually understand this the most, except for the placed unconsciously part.
That's cool. Yeah, I just didn't know like which side of it. If you were explaining your interpretation of the argument. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you for letting us know. Yeah, once again, come on, talk about it. I'd like to hear a perspective like yours. I really would.
Placed by tribal. So placed, like not. I guess placed is a. I'm caught up on that way of saying it, but it's innate. If it's evolution, it would be innate. The innate
right
reaction to difference that all humans have. But you get a lot of that's taught too. Like you get over that very early as a kid.
I would think so. I never really had that. I never.
We didn't either. Like my kindergarten class, hey, we had Head Start and kindergarten. It was very integrated, very mixed. We didn't notice that. Like nobody ever said, "Oh, look at your black classmates and your white class." We were just all kids playing together. Nobody.
I grew up in a
taught us.
black neighborhood. I grew
Yeah,
in
I
a
did
black
too.
neighborhood. Yeah. So. Yeah. All my friends, whenever I was little, like until I was like 7 or 8, they were mostly black because that's where I live.
Yeah, our town was about half black. Our school was about half black. Had black babysitters. We
But
played with black kids.
Even my little one here, like whenever I watch stuff on YouTube, like I watch some news programs like Rising and stuff like that sometimes, just seeing what's going on with news. And if I turn on Rising and Brianna Joy Gray is on the screen, for some reason she just really likes Brianna Joy Gray. She doesn't have like a reaction she every time Brianna Joy Gray comes on the screen, she smiles really big, and we're like, duh, I don't really like Brianna Joy Gray myself. I think she's kind of annoying. But Juniper here, she thinks she looks pretty or something. She sees her and she smiles real big and she gets all excited and jumps up and down. So I mean, like, I don't know if I even believe that about, evolution placing that tribalism, because the only people she sees around her on a daily basis, me and her mom, we're both white as hell. But she sees a black lady on the TV and it makes her happy. So you would think if it was something that tribal that evolved into us, that a baby, literally a tabula rasa infant, that evolutionary bias would be there from the start. But it's not.
She's not tabula rasa though.
Well, I guess not.
But yeah, that's a good point though. Like, do kids notice race before they're
my experience, they don't.
race?
I think it's taught myself.
I don't think we did. I remember as we had a black babysitter, this young girl, my mom, she was a coworker of my mom's, and she'd drop us off at her house sometimes and we'd stay with her. And I don't remember thinking anything different about her than anybody else around me. And this is like when I was 2.5, 3 years old.
I mean, I don't remember a lot of things I thought at that age, but at the same time, I certainly don't think. I mean, like I said, all the kids in my neighborhood were all dark skinned. I mean, and I don't mean like they were like. I mean, they were dark skin. Like I remember like how dark the kids in that culture were, that neighborhood were.
Observing black culture and generalizing it as lesser moral. Who does that? Can create a racist outlook on black. Yeah, but who's doing that? Who's doing that today? They might have done that in the past, but nobody thinks black people are lesser racist. I think people have some issues with like inner city crime, but not even just black. There's gangs of all colors and people of all colors doing crime.
There were some people on that race stream the other night that were making arguments like that, saying that black culture was less evolved, less important, or less,
Yeah, but those were fringe, like freakazoid.
Oh, I agree.
None of those people were mainstream. Those were like you're only going to see them on those panels. They're so fringe.
I agree with that. I'm just saying that they do exist. I don't think they exist in general, though. I don't think they exist in the sense of
like maybe
they're in a majority.
People in their trailer park might think that, but the dominant American narrative, I don't think sees black people as lesser moral.
Yeah,
Certain
I
individuals might, but I don't think those individuals are
represent the larger. Yeah.
right. You do it unconsciously the same way that, but I judge consciously. If I'm judging somebody, I know I'm doing it. That's why this word unconscious keeps hanging me up. I judge all the time. We all do. People that say they don't judge, I don't believe them because I judge. I know they judge. If they don't judge, I'm more suspicious that they don't judge. Because to me, it's normal to judge. I would feel uneasy about somebody that has no ability to judge and evaluate people.
I would
But
even
I'm
go
very
so
conscious of my judgments on people.
I would even go so far as to argue that there's a lot of those people that are on the fringes, those racist people like that were in that stream, that aren't even really racist, but they've adopted racist type positions as a means of getting attention and or trying to stand out in situations like that. Just like that one guy, like that whenever I went on and made my statement about if race is real, and he suddenly switched from being white supremacist to being like it was weird, like, but it seemed like I think the rest of the panel had already kind of like devolved into people on that side, so it's like he switched to try to stand out suddenly. You know, he took a different tribal position because he was gravitating towards the minority position. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what was going on with that guy. He might have just been crazy, but
That's a good point. But he did it consciously. That's a good point, though. There's a psychology to the positions that we adopt and to racism and things like that.
and I would say to you, Fokker, because you know it's impossible to know because it's happening. We wouldn't know it because it's unconscious.
Well, okay,
I know
no,
that's the
yeah,
argument.
then you can't claim it. If you can't demonstrate it, you can't claim it. It's metaphysical. It's superstition at that point. It's nothing. That's Christians do the same thing with sin.
And God.
Astrology and psychic people do it with auras and horoscopes. Like, yes, to your point, but at that point, you're taking it out of the realm of anything practical.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the same kind of thing. Like, you know, that people get into like how, I mean, honestly, I feel the same way about God as I do about like the Big Bang Theory. They're both equally unprovable and both equally unprovable. You know, we can't prove that they happened. We can't prove that God exists. Therefore, it's not a valid. I don't feel like it's a valid scientific interpretation. I'm not claiming it. Okay, that's cool. I mean, that's the reason why I was saying you should come on and talk to us, man, because like I'd like to hear. It seems like you have a pretty nuanced overall opinion of the stuff. I'd like to hear more about it from you. But yeah, I know that I know what you're saying. I mean, if you're just talking about the interpretation of that argument, but yeah, I don't think that's I agree with Jeff on this. I don't think there's any way to really claim that in a really in a really solid way, because for anybody, I'm not saying that you're claiming it, but I'm saying for anyone to make that claim that, oh well, yeah, that's the reason you would think that because you're not conscious of it because it's unconscious, that kind of thing. It's just a circular argument. It's unprovable and unprovable, so it's kind of invalid, isn't it? I mean, I know that's what the wokesters say anyway, though. That's their position, but it's still stupid. I don't know. I'm a very self-conscious person, though. I'm very aware of my general perceptions, and my experience with a lot of people has been that a lot of people are not that self-aware. But I do think they probably are aware on some level of their
How do you
general
know,
feelings.
though, if all you have is your own awareness to compare it to, or
Just talking to them? And I've talked to people. I've pointed out they said or did this or that, and you could see. I mean, I guess they all have just been lying, and they really were conscious of it. But I mean, I have no reason to really assume that either. And I'm just saying, like, I've talked to people and like that were doing some certain thing or acting a certain way that they didn't know they were doing it.
That makes them like automata, like these puppets or automatons that just
moist robots, as they say.
Yeah, or like frogs that just react to electrical stimulus and in the experiment, like humans have awareness and we're constantly making choices all day long and responding. Our brain is creating predictive models that we're using to navigate reality around us through like making little choices constantly every moment. I
Even
don't
though you-
believe people just act and don't know that they act and don't know why they act. That doesn't sound like human psychology to me. It doesn't. I can't relate it to anything that seems realistic about the way humans work.
I don't know. I mean, I have had moments in my life where I've reacted to something in a moment that in a way that I wouldn't have expected that I reacted. You know, I just reacted suddenly to something. I'm not talking. This isn't having to do with race or anything like that. But I mean, I'm saying there are aspects of us as humans where sometimes we might react or act in a certain way before we even have time to think about it. It's usually more like an adrenaline type response type thing. You know, like
Yeah, but I think
I,
those are rare. That's not our normal.
no, I agree. I'm just
State.
saying. You know, you're saying like you don't think people do that at all. I'm just saying that I see that it can happen in some ways.
I've
in
had
some ways.
blackouts from alcohol where
Right.
I had no consciousness of what I was doing, but I was doing things. I just had no memory or consciousness of them because of the alcohol. So I don't know what part of my brain was actually executing those acts. Like I fell off a mountain one time. I fell 10 feet into the ravine. They had to come pull me out.
God.
I woke up in the parking lot. I had all these scars and scrapes and everything on me. I thought I fell in the parking lot, like walking to the car. And they told me I fell off a mountain. I had no memory of any of, like, you would think you would remember falling off a mountain.
Yeah.
No memory. But I had all the scars to prove that I fell off the mountain.
Well, maybe you hit your head or something. It could have deleted
No, I was
that memory.
it was a blackout. Like I was walking the whole time, and I walked off the edge, and it was like it was like a ravine. I walked and I slid down the hill, like I rolled or slid down the hill. I was about 10 feet down from the trail, and they had to come and pick me up and bring me to the car. And I don't remember them picking me up. I don't remember them bringing. In my mind, I was walking down the trail, and we got to the car, and I fell in the parking lot, and that's why I had the scrapes. That's the only part of that my brain remembers. So I was doing all that other stuff, but I wasn't conscious of any of it. And I've done other things in blackouts that I'm not going to say on live stream.
That's fine. You know,
that was just one example.
I once sort of fell off a mountain too, but I was completely sober and conscious of it. So, yeah, but I didn't really fall off. I saw the edge. I was out in this like wooded area, and it was at this limestone cliff type thing. And me and a friend, we saw this thing down the way on this hillside. It looked like a hill to us. It didn't look like it was actually a cliff. It just looked like it was at a slight incline. And we were both gonna see if we could, like, we were trying to see what this thing was. It looked like there was something sticking out of the ground, and we were just trying to figure out what it was. And we looked at this cliffside, and we thought, oh, we could just, like, you know, just kind of walk down there. And as it wasn't the case, remind me to tell you that story sometime. It's a really long story though, and I don't want to go into it all right now because we were talking about an interesting subject. But it's a funny story, and I'll be happy to tell it sometime.
Okay. Well, maybe next time you're on, you could tell.
It's
falling off the mountain.
It involves swinging from a vine to get rescued from the situation. So
sounds exciting.
Yeah, I nearly died, but yeah, it was okay. I survived. I was from pure stupidity too, but I mean, you know, I could see there's something in that though. I mean, even though like that cliffside was much more steep than it looked like, it still looked like a slight incline to me. I could see that there's other things like biases like that I wasn't aware that my perception of that hill or that mountain could be that off, but the reality was that it was very much more steep than it actually appeared.
That's physical. Like, that's not human. That's not evaluating other human beings.
Oh yeah,
that's like spatial intelligence.
I'm just talking about like just things that could potentially be like situations where we might not be aware of our perception being off. But yeah, I agree. That is a lot different.
I'm more talking about our biases, our reactions to those perceptions. Yeah, I agree. Our perceptions cannot be 100% accurate at any given moment of the day.
Yeah.
It's the response, the reaction, the cognition that we apply to those perceptions. I don't believe we're not aware of that. If there's somebody in your vicinity that's making you feel a certain way, you know, like your animal brain probably knows it before your conscious brain even does. Like, you know right away when there's another human being that's making you feel a type of way.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if like there's any I can think of any examples or any times in my life where I could think of anything that contradicts that. But I mean, I can't really think of much. So I mean, but then again, I guess if I was unconscious of it, I wouldn't know, would I? So that's the argument, right? That people are making.
And he said, even though you claim an unconscious argument, which I'm not sure what that is, it could be seen as true if underlined by logic. I don't know what that.
I don't really know what that one means.
How can you underline anything by logic that's unconscious? Because logic involves clearly stating the premises that make up the argument. So if part of it is submerged in this unconscious that you can't access, how could you even apply logic to it?
Yeah, I have to agree. It's basically saying that there's a logical underpinning underneath this idea of the unconscious racism. They're saying the logic would lead you to believe that it must exist. Maybe it's kind of similar to the way like people make those arguments about like how, oh, hey, adaptable. Hey, come on the stream if you want, man. Come on.
God bless you both in the baby. Yeah, we don't know what we're talking about anymore. It started with unconscious racism and bias, which I say doesn't exist. That people that are racist are very conscious that they're racist. There's not like these innocent white people walking around that secretly hate black people but don't know it. That makes no sense to me.
I agree. I don't think that it's really racism in that situation, if it even happens at all. I don't think it's fair to call it racism, because the term racism we specifically apply to a hatred or a literal, an actionable negative feeling towards a certain race or type of people.
To be racism, to be authentic racism, it would have to be conscious.
Yeah, I agree.
So the idea that all white people are carrying around this hidden racism that they don't realize they have is bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I grew up in a black neighborhood. I've never felt any particular revulsion towards any type of people I've ever met. I have no reason to. I mean, I don't know. I would think I would have to have some early on negative experience with some sort of subgroup of humans,
or be taught. Like you can be taught. Be taught to be racist. You can be taught to hate gay people. Blah blah blah. But I think the amount of parents teaching their kids that in today, 2023, is much less than maybe 40 years ago.
Even though I wasn't raised in any way to hate or to fear gay people or anything like that, I certainly grew up in a conservative Christian environment. My parents are very loving people, and they never taught me to act any way like that towards people that were gay or different anyway. But there was still a lot of media and stuff that they watched and stuff that certainly had a lot of negative attitudes towards gay people and stuff like that. But yet when I met gay people, I never had any kind of like feeling of like, ew, gay people. I just never felt that way. So I don't even know if I guess it can be taught, but it's just because someone tries to teach it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. If an argument of you reacting unconscious sound more logical than it not being an unconscious argument, then it would be a good argument. I don't know.
But it doesn't. There's nothing logical about reacting unconsciously other than reflex.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking too. Like then it's not logic. If you're reacting unconsciously, it's not logical. It's the opposite of logical. So I don't see how that could happen. It seems like that argument defeats itself. I mean, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm not seeing it. I'm grabbing a drink real fast. Be back 1 second.
Okay. Like I've told this story before. I was with a friend walking. We were walking down a hall, and she poked me in the stomach, and my arm flew out and hit her, like popped her right across the face. Just instinctive, really hard. And we didn't talk for like 2 weeks. She was really mad, but I didn't consciously do that. Like it was my reflex. It was my nervous system. She poked some nerve that caused my arm to fly out. It happened before I was even conscious I was doing it. That I call a reflex. That was a purely instinctive, reflexive reaction to a stimulus.
Well, could you have a
I don't think
reflex?
that's what they're talking about when they talk about.
I don't either. I think they could be, what they could be talking about could be reflex based, but they're turning it into something that it isn't. When the woke says that whites have this interracism, it is wrong. If it exists, it obviously goes both ways. Okay, well,
That
I mean, like
any group can have it against anybody.
Yeah, and I do think that's
course.
true.
Especially if it's tribalism, it applies to all humans.
Absolutely.
I can't believe I'm even wasting my time arguing woke positions because I normally don't do this. That's like arguing with Christians. I just know that they're bullshit.
I don't think he's taking the woke
I guess
position.
it's a good exercise. No, I'm not saying him in particular. I'm just saying this whole conversation I would normally never have because it's so ridiculous to me to begin with.
I mean, I'm not taking the woke position either. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit. But I mean, I generally agree with what you're saying overall. I don't think that it's impossible for someone to have a reflex like that could be based in race. I just don't think it's common, and I don't think it's basically statistically significant. Because I do think most people are rather at least conscious of racial biases because they're so obvious. You can't ignore it. I mean, I guess maybe if you're someone who's so sheltered, lives in such a white town or such a black town or something like that, where you barely ever encounter black people or white people or Indian people or something, and maybe it happens so little that you're not aware of the fact that you feel a revulsion towards that type of people because it's not something you encounter very often. Maybe. But I think that's rather rare, and I think it's probably, and like what the woke side of things does is they try to make it in this thing where, all the white people are evil racists type thing because they act in these unconscious, like, racist ways and all this shit like that, systemic racism and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can see how there could be some things in the quote unquote system, in laws and stuff like that might have been crafted at a time when we were as a nation more racially biased, maybe. And maybe, that I can see how there's there's reverberations from that throughout time. I don't think it's that significant anymore. I mean, certainly slavery left its stain on the world, not just in this country. It left its stain on the entire world because slavery goes back to the beginning of human civilization, at very least, if not before civilization happened. So, people were enslaving people for a lot longer than we've been treating people as autonomous beings that deserve to be free.
Ooh, sorry.
But it wasn't just white people enslaving black people. It was white people enslaving white people enslaving, and black people enslaving black people and white people and Indian people and everything else. Everyone was enslaving everyone. It had nothing to do with skin color until much later on. That was just like people were even like slaves because of debt. They would like basically sign themselves into being a slave in order to pay off a debt. And sometimes that used to happen all the time. So, enslavement of people is unfortunately a part of humans in general. I think since the Enlightenment happened and people became aware of that sort of thing, I just don't think that I can't imagine someone being pro-slavery today, but maybe they exist, but I think only on the fringes.
Yeah, but they
right?
would be very They wouldn't be
Yeah,
on a
that's what I just
scale
said.
where you needed all these social programs to address. And that's another
Absolutely.
thing that the woke say is what you said about maybe the policies in the past, and some of them are still reverberating today, and they do make that case, like the effects of past policies, but they can't show where those effects are because we've cleaned up the policies. The effects are going to work themselves out in time. It's going to take a little time for all that to catch up. But there's nothing people are doing today based on those policies that would be causing or contributing to racism. But they make the case that they're still living with the effects of the past racism, and we as white people are somehow still responsible for addressing that. But we have addressed it. We've equalized all the policies.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what I was saying. I was saying I see how it's possible. I just don't think it's true. I see like where the argument comes from. I just don't think that it's right. Yeah, like the people that are like pro reparations and stuff at this point, right? It's like are they did that go forward in California? Are they really going to do that in San Francisco? Are they really going to like pay?
Probably, but let me look it up.
I mean, that was a ridiculous amount of money they were talking about, like basically making a whole bunch of like millionaires. Like, I guess class warfare.
$5 million payment for each eligible black resident.
Right. Yeah.
Proposes.
It's just proposed still. I thought it got passed.
They do have an African American Reparations Advisory Committee.
What?
That advises the Board of Supervisors, the mayor, and the Human Rights Commission.
That's a job? Can you imagine?
It's a whole board, a whole committee.
Oh, what's
I don't
your
know
job?
If it's paid or volunteer. But
I'm a reparations advisor for the city of San Francisco. I mean, I wonder how many of those people are white too.
Let's see if I can find the board.
Oh, and DeFucker, he said that the whites being the oppressors are the only misceration being taught in school, especially through the argument of slavery. Yeah, I agree.
Well, there's a lot of interesting comments, page, but I don't see the actual members. They don't have their photos.
Put it up on screen. Maybe we can look through it. We can't get in trouble for showing a web page, can we?
Let me see if I can find. I'm going to Google and see what I can find.
Okay. Got a lot of interesting comments and a lot of great comment activity. I really wish somebody come on and like actually like engage with it a little more. I guess I know a lot of people are scared about.
It's Saturday morning too. Like
yeah, that's fair.
I streamed earlier today.
Yeah, I forgot that it's just now 3. I just looked at the clock. I was like, oh shit! I thought it was a lot later than that.
And the machine starts at if he starts on time, which he almost never does, he should be starting in about 4 hours. I'm still looking. I just realized I'm not as interested enough in this to really do the research it probably doesn't deserve.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. I just think it's.
Oh, they even have a national. They have a national African American Reparations Committee. That's like a grassroots organization. It's not official. Okay. Maybe like the San Francisco one. The San Francisco one is sf.gov, so that is official.
Wow, that's insane.
They have the thing. Meetings, and they put out a final report.
It's one of those things where, if Black Lives Matter, if they really cared about making a difference in the lives of African Americans, stuff like that, instead of buying mansions, they could have been paying actual financial reparations out to people if they really care about that. But they don't.
Hustlers. They're just hustling off.
Oh, race. I know. I completely agree. I was just saying, like, that's one of those things where you can really see how much they were race hustlers, just like Ibram X. Kennedy. And which isn't even his real name. It's a name he adopted to sound more black, to be honest.
Who is it?
Oh, Ibram X. Kennedy, the guy who's famous for
Oh,
writing
yeah.
How to Be Anti-Racist. Yeah. You saw the stuff about him in the news lately, how his whole center for anti-racism, how it
Mhm.
blew through $40 million and didn't produce a single
Yeah,
thing.
like how he's a phony. He don't know what the hell he's doing.
I mean, everyone
Oh,
knew
I
that
found
already. But
okay, we found. I don't want to show all these pictures. I'll probably get, but yes, they do have pictures. They are all black or appear black. They put
they
out
could
a
be Rachel Dolezal's.
almost 400-page final report, reparations plan.
Oh man, I can't imagine reading that. That must be painful.
There's 18 members on the board. Ancestral acknowledgement.
Oh, they do that ancestral acknowledgement thing.
Yeah,
or
except
land
they're not acknowledging land. They're acknowledging the gifts, resilience, and sacrifices of our black ancestors. Particularly
that
those
sold you
who
to them.
toiled the land and built the institutions. So they're like the land we took from the Indians that the slaves worked on. They are acknowledging that land that the slaves worked on.
Do they acknowledge the Africans that sold them to the white people in the first place?
I'm guessing not. Let me read.
Yeah,
closely.
I know they don't. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I watched a little bit of the Woman King movie because I wanted to see how bad it was. And dear God, I mean, it's not even disputed history that the tribe of people that movie is about were enslavers of other black people. It's not disputed. It's completely a known historical fact. It's not disputed by the left, but they still made a movie about that tribe showing them as like fighting back against the white oppressors. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it does get worse. We honored the gifts, resilience, and sacrifices of our black ancestors, particularly those who toiled the land and built the institutions that established the city's wealth and freedom, despite never being compensated nor fully realizing their own sovereignty. We acknowledge this exploitation of not only labor, and this none of them. This is their ancestors that did this.
Yeah.
But they're phrasing it like it's their work. Because of their work, we are here and will invest in the descendants of their legacy. That reminds me of what the Lakota tribe was trying to do with the Mankind Project and say that they're using all the stuff from their culture and they wanted a cut of the money that they were supposedly making from it.
It's just they're like race
These are
mobsters.
opportunists. To me, they just seem like opportunists.
They're like the mob, though. They're like they come in. They're like, I think we deserve a cut of this because, you're in our territory, so you're gonna. Otherwise,
And it's
you got
only
a nice
their territory because they were slaves on it and worked the land.
Oh, I know. I'm saying, but it's just like the mob that goes into like a place that says like, a business is in their territory of the city and, you got a nice place here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. You might have to pay somebody for some protection money. It's basically what these things are. It's like white people donating to BLM and stuff like that in order to like be sheltered from potentially being called a racist, It's like you're just paying protection money to the mob. Just the race mob,
Stonewall did that too, the gay organization.
Did they?
They would go around to get their gay rating or their Stonewall rating.
I never heard of that one. I didn't know
that. Yeah, they would give ratings. Let's see, kind of like the ESG scores today. But
yeah, I know about that stuff. I never heard of the Stonewall rating before. I mean, I believe you. I just never heard of it.
Like the what is it? The Human Rights Campaign Index or something score. And so all the corporations were bowing down to whatever Stonewall told them they had to do to get the right score.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I any of these things like that. I mean, like attaching a score to it is just weird in the first place. Like, it's like you gotta. I remember like when our first daughter was born. I didn't even know like the APGAR thing existed.
Workplace Equality Index. Oh, this is in the UK.
Okay.
Because the UK has it enshrined in law, and I guess Stonewall is the organization that goes around and makes sure everybody's complying.
That's so weird.
Which we have it enshrined in law too, but we don't use Stonewall.
Yeah, that would be like the nightmare, like that, like wokeism gets enshrined in law, and there's like woke compliance officers going around like making sure people are woke enough.
Well, they kind of have that in a lot of companies.
Just not enshrined in law. I was saying like the
HR
federal
department,
government.
right?
Yeah, like I think it's weird when people apply arbitrary rating systems to things, just in general. I think it's even weird when people do that with people. You know, like the rating people on a scale of 1 to 10 thing. You know, they're like, you know, they like that whatever podcast and stuff, and they're like asking all these girls to like rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. I just think that's weird. I don't know why you would do that. Why you would agree to give yourself a number, and why you would, you know, acknowledge someone else's number of you. Like, you know, I mean, you know, I don't think of myself as being a particularly attractive person or anything, but I putting a number on it just seems unnecessary and stupid. You know. Anytime I've ever used that kind of language, like talking about somebody, it's always been as a joke, you know, because I think that's ridiculous. But
well, it gives people a way to communicate, like one quality in relation to another.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and certainly you could definitely say that, you know, it's not hard to figure out that, like, you know, when it comes to women or something, you know, or men, you know, there's a lot of actors that are clearly more attractive than a lot of people, you know, that are not actors or whatever. But I mean, it just seems weird. I just think it's so odd to like put those numbers on things, like trying to assign numbers to everything when it's clearly subjective, you know. I mean, you could say objectively someone's more symmetrical or something like that, but there's a lot of people that are considered to be like beautiful or whatever in like in mainstream media, like in movies or something like that. Like Margot Robbie, who's in you know, the Barbie girl who plays Barbie. I think she's pretty, I guess, but she's not particularly attractive to me. I guess from an objective sense, I can say like, yeah, she's an objectively symmetrical. She fits the ideal of what, you know, most blonde beauty types are. But it's not particularly attractive to me. So what number rating would I give her? I can't think of one, you know. So I just think it's really weird when you try to adapt something that doesn't even work like that, when it makes more sense in that case. Then you try to adapt a score to like how woke something is or how racially equitable.
Well, they have
whatever.
metrics. They have it broken down into specific metrics that
Oh,
they
they do?
look for.
Like how many people they hire or whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that. And what policies, training policies that they implement. Did
Right.
people, how many took the DEI training?
Well, yeah, he does make a good point there. Defucker here said, you know, he said like everyone's a member of BLM lacks perspective because they are unconsciously racist. I mean, I do think it's true that I don't
think they're unconsciously racist. I think they know they don't like white people. I don't think they have any illusions that they love white people and they secretly don't like them. I think they're very well aware of their bias against white people.
I'm not talking about towards white people. I think a lot of BLM people are racist against their own, against black people too. They did a lot of destructive things that really hurt black communities and stuff like that. They acted in ways that could be perceived as...
That could just be stupidity.
Well, that's true. But I mean, it's not racism. It's not unconscious racism, but they still acted in ways that's detrimental to black communities. And I don't think that's the same thing as racism, but that's what they're talking about when they're saying that. They're saying that that's what white people do, that we do things that are detrimental to black communities, even though we don't know we're doing it. And that's racism. And it's not racism.
Well, then point it out and show us what it is that we're doing, but they can't. I ask all the time what these things are, and they show like list of disparities and say, look, like black kids are graduating at lower rates. But what are white people doing to contribute to that? They can't tell me. Or they'll show stuff like redlining from the past. which is not even happening now. And so they can't pull any concrete examples from today of what white people are doing to contribute to the lack of success of black people.
No, I agree. Once again, I'm not saying that I think is racism. I was saying that that's what their argument is. I think the best I understand it. Whereas the BLM people actually contributed to a lot of attitudes and things that actually did have detrimental effects on black neighborhoods and communities, because the riots and everything primarily destroyed black neighborhoods. And but I mean, they were certainly not aware of, but they're not acting in a sense that's racism. They're just being self-interested and doing things that fit their narrative, and it just happens to have those things. So it's not actually racism; it's just being an asshole, and that's what it comes down to in a lot of cases. It has nothing to do with race. It's usually just people being assholes.
Well,
And
I think it's just a big grift anyway.
A grift too, yeah. But I mean, like, I'm just saying that it's not really racism, because it's not racially motivated actions. It's just self-interest, and it happens to have, consequences for maybe black people, maybe gay people, maybe white people, whatever. But it really has nothing to do with a specific hatred towards those groups, as much as it is them just doing what is best for them personally. I think that's the best I understand it. What Adaptable says, signs of health are usually seen as markers of attractiveness in different cultures. That could be pale skin, doesn't work outside, i.e. royalty, or thick body, eats well, doesn't starve. Yeah, that's true. I mean, certainly thick bodies aren't really culturally seen as that same thing today, but that's because we're not faced with like mass starvation here in America. I suppose it probably would be in like, food desert type countries where like they really do starve a lot. The fucker says they're unconsciously racist because they misinterpret that word racism. Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Like the unconscious racism, it really has nothing to do with racism. They're taking the word racism, they're applying it to things that are not racism. They're just things that might detrimentally affect racial communities of this ethnic types or this type, and they're saying, well, that's got to be racist because it affected black people, and that's just bullshit. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. It's like that. The language virus that they keep trying to spread, where they take one word and they try to change its meaning. They keep applying it to things that it doesn't apply to until it gets associated with that, and then suddenly people are like, well, but they still maintain that initial actual meaning, but then they try to expand it to encompass these things
Yes,
too.
I've been
so they can
saying
use it
that.
as
They're taking the word racism and they're stretching it way beyond what it actually is. And they're doing that with violence and harm and trauma and everything else that they can stretch to encompass something that they could
weaponize,
kind of co-opt and drag in for their cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just power. It's to get power from the bottom.
Although that does sound suspiciously close to a conspiracy, Jeff. So I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just joking, man.
No, because you have a point, but conspiracy is coordination. And to the extent that this is being coordinated in the academies through the peer review system and the hiring system, there's a little bit of, maybe it's not conspiracy because it's out in the open, but there is some coordination at some level of all this.
Yeah, there has to be to some degree. I mean, it could be a lot of people that are all thinking the exact same thing independently and not having any, but it's probably not coordination like them getting together and just saying like, hey, if we all do this, this will happen. But they all get together and talk about the same things and have the same ideas, and they share those ideas, and then those ideas just spread out. It's not really a conspiracy.
Right. They put a paper on it. Like they tried to do with Latinx. They tried to get that to be a word. They had a paper written of why we should use, and that didn't work. But stuff like that, that's not necessarily a conspiracy, but it is a coordinated effort to change something from the top down.
I don't really think it's a conspiracy. It just sounds like what, but because like things sometimes
are actual conspiracies. Those have happened. There's proof of them happening. Actual conspiracies. People in actually dark, shady rooms in the
Yeah, wasn't
especially back in
Enron a
the
conspiracy?
yeah, that literally was a conspiracy. There was a
And
bunch of people that got
Martha
together
Stewart?
and conspired to defraud all the customers of that energy company. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good documentary. Have you seen that one about Enron? Came out a long time ago. I used to have it on DVD. It's pretty good. It actually is very balanced. I thought at the time. I haven't seen it in years, but it wasn't like a just focusing all its ire on what's his name that was in the Bush administration, Dick Cheney or whatever. It wasn't just like an anti-Dick Cheney thing, but it actually went into all the aspects of it. So it was pretty good. The word racism itself is a relatively new word. Yeah, I guess that's probably true.
How new is it? It's been around for a while, huh? Since Jim Crow.
At least, yeah. What I think I hate more than the misuse of word racism is the way everyone misuses the terms phobia, like homophobia, transphobia, stuff like that. Like, I mean, I've known some people that were bigots, sure, but they weren't afraid of gay people.
Although if you take it as an aversion to, then
I don't even know if they really had an aversion to. It was just like an open malice. But I mean, that weren't people I was friends with. I've just encountered people like that. But the word came to widespread usage in the Western world in the 1930s. Okay, I didn't actually know that. I never thought about it before, about when that word came about. That's really interesting. I've heard people say recently that the concept of race itself is fairly modern. Somebody said that the other night was it last night even on Cascadian's thing? Somebody said something like that. I can't remember. Something I heard last couple of days.
I guess it depends on what they mean by racism. People certainly knew that there were differences.
Yeah, I mean them calling it race. I think the term race itself, I don't know that it really. That's what someone's saying. I haven't looked into it because I think I've heard that idea before, but I hadn't really given it too much credence. But someone said the other day, and I thought that was interesting. I hadn't really thought of it in a while. That the every idea of race itself. Color phobia refers
another word for differences between people.
They probably just didn't have a category for it. I don't know. Or maybe it's that the term race just didn't exist. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. It's something I should research. Because I have not looked into it, but I just heard somebody say it the other day. So, color phobia refers to the irrational fear and hatred of Black people, also known as racial prejudice. Oh, they used to call it color phobia too. Okay,
the coloreds.
Yeah, I never understood that whole terminology. I think we all have a color. Even I'm still colored. I'm just colored white or pink.
When I was in 7th grade geography class, the teacher was talking about colored people, and one of the Black girls stood up. I remember she had braids, and she said, "Colored people, you don't see we be red, white, and blue. We be black, babe, black." And she snapped her finger, and from that point forward, I never called a Black person colored person again. I called them Black because it came straight out of her mouth. They were Black.
Yeah, it makes sense. Even though they're really more brown, but yeah. I have met a couple of like Nigerians that their skin actually was damn near black, but most of the Black people I've known have been much lighter skin than that. But not to be mistaken with
it's what skin pigmentation from cooler for fear of clowns. Yeah. It's just different levels of skin pigmentation that evolve over time, depending on the region that they developed in.
Yeah, I think I have the clown fear thing. I
do you?
The clown world. No, just joking.
Oh,
I meant clowns in like the modern sense of all the race grifters and all the the clown world people.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm not afraid of them. I'm just joking.
I've never been afraid of clowns, but I've never been that impressed by them either.
I always thought clowns were really boring. I never thought they were cool. I never thought Yeah, I guess the closest thing to a
Except for
clown.
Homie the Clown. I liked him.
Who?
Homie the Clown.
Homie the Clown?
From
Where's that
Living
from?
Color. You don't remember him from
Okay.
Living Color?
Oh, in Living
Damon
Color.
Wayans.
Yeah, I've
And he
seen
would
something
hit
in Living
those little
Color, but
kids with that thing.
I didn't watch it much when I was growing up, so I don't know if that will. I think I know the skit you're talking about, though. Homie the Clown. I think I kind of recall that a little bit now. I've seen it in reruns more than I saw it when it was new on the air.
He was this
When I
real
was-
jaded, cynical clown. He would try to teach him about racism. Like all the stuff Homie the Clown is saying, which was a Living Color skit, people are seriously trying to teach now as a real thing. And Homie was teaching it as part of a comedy skit.
Kind of like
Of how the
Mr.
man
Robinson's
was
Neighborhood.
always trying to keep him down, and Mr. Whitey and the man. And he'd go into like schools and teach all these little kids about the man trying to keep him down.
Yeah, like Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. The
Yeah. With
yeah,
Eddie
like
Murphy.
the
I remember
Eddie
that.
Murphy thing. Yeah, yeah.
Homie, don't
Homie,
play that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't have that. I don't know what it was, but I want one. Like a big thing on a big sock with something in it, and he'd pop those kids with it. Every time they got on his nerves, he'd swing it and it'd hit one of them, and he'd say, "Homie, don't play that."
Defucker, you said people who say African American or something like they're that instead of black are racist without realizing. Do you really think that? Because like when I was growing
No,
up,
they're not. That's not racist. That's
I
what I'm
don't think
saying.
so either.
Racist without realizing it.
yeah,
That's you think they're racist. They're racist. They're your version of racism without realizing the version of racism that you're categorizing them as. That's not the same thing as them being racist.
yeah, I agree.
You can go around calling anybody anything racist and saying they don't realize, but that's racist. It's just racist because you think it's racist.
When I was growing up, that was the opposite. Calling someone black was considered racist. The proper thing to say was African American. And if you didn't say African American, then you were racist because you were calling
Well, you
them
saw
black
the
people. and
big
they
controversy. Yeah, that was the politically correct PC, which was
and as
our version
soon
of woke.
as soon as everyone got on board with that and started calling black people African Americans, then it switched. Like it
But
was
you
like
saw the big controversy with Coleman Hughes and the TED Talk.
No, I didn't see that. Oh, because people saying, I grew up with the colorblindness thing, and it actually worked.
I'm very proud of being colorblind.
Me too.
But
Me too.
But he wanted to give a talk on that, like how positive I think colorblindness was, and some of the employees in the TED Talk company complained, and so they put all these restrictions on his talk, and he had to agree to do a debate on the topic if they were going to promote his video or something, and this just happened, and like everybody came out on his side and said how unfair TED Talk's being to do this, just because some employees saw it as it made them uncomfortable or something, or saw it as racist. You know, the buzzwords they use.
Yeah, I know. It's so stupid. I mean, like, I can't. When I was growing up, which wasn't that long ago. I mean, I'm 42. I'm not like spring chicken. So, like, Zoomers these days, they really do. They're raised with that kind of thing. They think if you use the term African American, you're weird. But like, they're born right there on the cusp of that. Like, because really, up until that generation was born, the whole my whole like upbringing and everything, colorblindness was, I mean, and I still think it's a better standard. Why should we need to acknowledge? Because I really don't see a person.
Because you're contributing to racism. If you refuse to prioritize race or feature race somehow as significant, then you are contributing to racism you're downplaying race.
I mean, I know you don't really think that, but I know that you're explaining.
No, that's what that is their case against colorblindness.
Yeah, I agree.
By colorblindness is a way to downplay and dismiss the impacts that race has.
And it's not. I mean,
I
I
know,
guess
but
if you apply it, I think that argument started out as meaning to apply to in a systemic sense, which I still don't agree with it either. But then it started applying to individual people because like there is no good argument that could ever convince me that it's racist that if you meet someone who is a different race than you and you don't acknowledge that right away, there's nothing that you could ever say to convince me that that's racist. That's just stupid. I mean, you're treating them as a human being, not as a member of a group, and that's what you're supposed to do.
That is the crux, because there are no individuals. It's all group demographics, and you're not. By treating them as an individual, you are betraying the group by trying to make their individuality significant instead of the group.
So stupid.
Because Western liberalism is based on individualism, and Marxism is based on the collective. So they're reversing. They're putting individualism at the bottom of the value hierarchy instead of the top, and they're putting collectivism at the top instead of the bottom where we would put it. So it's two warring ideologies, but only one of them is America, like originated and developed in America. The other one is some imported ideology that they're trying to use to.
I mean, I don't know that it wasn't created here in America, but it doesn't mean that it's American. Marxism wasn't, no. I'm just saying, like
liberalism was that informed the entire American project.
Yeah, and that's European in itself, though, isn't it?
And freedom and individuality, like putting the individual first.
And DeFucker says they're racist because they're scared of saying how it is racism through compassion to the oppressed. Okay, yeah, but that's not something I see from the people that they say that about. It's something I see in the leftists and the Democrats all the time. They're the ones that are constantly acting in ways that what they would call unconscious racism. Oh, hey, man, what's up?
Oh, we got a caveman with us today.
I saw that you guys were live, so I thought, like, why not, hop on for a little bit before my girlfriend gets here.
Sure, yeah. Hey,
yeah.
Welcome. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a great stream.
I didn't know that you wrote for cracked.com because I used to read Cracked magazine all the time.
Well, yeah, they were really different entities. It was just the brand was bought when they created the website. I'm happy to have published like 7 articles there from that time period. I used to be really active within their writers Slack and stuff like that. I was a researcher for them too for a little while. It was just on a trial basis, but right after I got a job for Amazon, which really took up all my time, so I couldn't write for them anymore. Then they got bought out by this other company, and they fired everybody that I knew. So,
yeah, that happens with a lot of companies, unfortunately. It was just really funny because the magazine one time made fun of South Park, and they called it Mouth Park.
What was the gimmick there with Mouth Park?
That was just the gimmick. I guess when they made fun of it, is they were getting attacked by a giant butt in a wheelchair that was also a Nazi.
That sounds like something South Park would do. So
yeah. So for a parody, it wasn't that much of a parody. And then it was like, it was funny one time when they made fun of Walker, Texas Ranger, because they called it Wrecker, Texas Mangler. And the only thing I remembered about the story is at the end of it, the guy from NYPD Blue is looking at Chuck Norris's butt, and he's saying, now I don't have to have the ugliest butt on television anymore. Because remember that show? Do any of you remember NYPD Blue? Because I never watched it, but remember how it had that guy with the mustache? Yeah, it had that guy with the mustache, and he was a little on the pudgy side, and it was kind of infamous at the time and controversial because they'd always do like it's half nude scenes with him, or his butt would show or something.
Well, the fucker, you harassing my guest. That was a power play. I didn't even.
That's a power play. Go ahead.
I don't think that was.
And then there was this other time where they made fun of the movie Flubber with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And at the very end of it, on the wedding scene where they're about to get married, Robin walks into his wedding with a wedding dress, and then the woman's like, "Stupid, this is not the bird cage." And his response is like, "But I like being a woman."
I never really read the magazine back in the day, so I guess it had some funny stuff. I guess I
only read it like in the late '90s. I mean, I'm more familiar with Mad Magazine.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I used to own a few Mad magazines, but I rarely bought it, but I did. Yeah, the fucker says it was an unconscious power play. I was like, so what does that make me? I'm the one sitting here with a baby and my wife in the background half the time. So am I trying to assert my dominance too?
See, that's what I'm talking about. They find all these little invisible things that nobody would even make something of.
Well, I mean, he's joking, but
Is he joking?
yeah,
I wouldn't take that as a. It might
put the
be
crying
a
laughing
power
emoji.
play. I thought he was just being like
Yeah, and
friendly.
speaking of like parodies and spoofs, I mean, a lot of people complain that like spoof movies are just no good anymore, and that they just kind of vanished off the face of the earth. Because I mean, we all remembered like when Airplane was considered like a critical classic. We
Oh, yeah.
remember some of those other movies that Leslie Nielsen was in, like The Naked Gun.
I still love Loaded Weapon 1 myself.
Yeah,
I love the National Lampoon stuff. Is good. No,
or
it's
Hot
the,
Shots Part 2.
yeah, definitely. Hot Shots and Hot Shots
Yeah,
Part
with
2 were
Charlie
classics,
Sheen.
straight up classics. I think the it was the what's their name, Friedman and Seltzer or something like that. Whenever it was like the people that started with Meet the Spartans.
Yes, those guys.
Yeah, they ruined it for everybody. A Scary Movie, the initial Scary Movie, which I think the first one's pretty funny actually. At least has 3 scenes in it that I think are really hilarious.
Right.
Mostly just the dick through the ear thing. I think it's hilarious for some reason, just because like the one guy is like is in a bathroom stall and he looks into a glory hole, and for some reason he puts his ear up next to
Oh
it.
God!
Then a cock stabs him through the ear, kills him.
Right.
That scene makes me
Well,
laugh.
like Scary Movie 4 was not done by the Wayans, but there
know.
was like a funny scene where this guy tries to grab his pills and it ends up being Viagra. And then it gives him like, he just like has this big problem afterwards where when he falls off the building, it like leaves a crater in the ground.
I don't think I saw the 4th one. I remember seeing the 3rd one. That's the one that had Charlie Sheen in it, right? It was like a sign.
I think so.
Parody.
The 4th one had Leslie Nielsen in it, and Leslie Nielsen, of course, plays the president. And then one of the funny jokes in the 4th one is they were saying, "This is Detroit before this is Detroit, and then this is Detroit after the alien invasion, and before the
The same
alien
thing.
invasion, it's on fire, and then after the alien invasion, nothing changes except the aliens are there."
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I remember the only joke I remember from the 3rd one, and it did make me laugh really hard, even though I liked the movie they're joking about. There's a joke when they did a parody of the architect scene from Matrix Reloaded, and they make some crack about Pootie Tang, and then he says something like, "And it's been wreaking destruction ever since, just like Pootie Tang." And I thought that was really funny at the time, but like. Pootie Tang's actually a really funny movie, so I mean, I don't know why they decided to make fun of
it's
that.
a movie.
Oh yeah, it was Louis C.K. Louis C.K.'s first directorial debut is Pootie Tang. Him and Chris Rock wrote it, and it's actually really funny. It's actually I didn't see it until way later.
Oh, it's blaxploitation. I love blaxploitation.
Yeah,
is it like I'm gonna get you, sucker?
Yeah,
I
or
remember
Black
that movie.
Black Dynamite.
No,
Put it
I don't
on
know
the-
if I've
put it
seen
on our
it.
list.
I actually, the one I saw was the Mac. That's the one I remember watching.
The map.
The Mac.
Yeah, the Mac.
Oh, the Mac.
Mac,
Yeah, I
the
think
Mac.
I vaguely remember that one.
Have you seen Black Dynamite? Black Dynamite's hilarious. It's got
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Michael J. White, I think, and yeah, it's straight up fire. Yeah, that movie makes me. It's the whole thing is hilarious. Pootie Tang's.
Oh, what
actually
was
got
your
a
guys'
story to it,
reaction to that Will Smith outburst at the Oscars?
Where he
was-
he slapped.
yeah, the slapping.
Yeah, the slap took when he
I
slapped
forgot
Chris
all
Rock.
about it.
I just thought it was
this is
funny
ri-
because Chris Rock made a joke about his wife being in the new G.I. Jane movie,
Yeah, I know.
and he took offense to that.
Such a tame fucking. And the thing is, he laughed at it until his wife made like a mean face. He looks over at her, he sees her, and he's like, "Oh, she's mad. I better go do something."
Yeah, he's like, I better not come home to that. I mean, the slap I'm going to give this guy is probably worse than what I'm going to get when I go home to her.
Yeah, I think it was. He was just protecting himself from getting his ass beat by Jada Pinkett Smith. It was it might have seemed like an overreaction, but probably wasn't to him. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably pretty tame compared to what he would be coming home to. So what were you guys talking about the last couple hours?
Racism.
race stuff.
Unconscious race, all the woke like racism.
Well, yeah, it was interesting because like even like that philosopher Dugan had different forms of racism that he described in his book, The Fourth Political Theory. I think it was that book, but he said like one form of it is civilizational racism, where where other civilizations are looked at as inferior just because they don't behave like the West.
That's what the those guys on that panel were saying. Some of them that
Right. Yeah.
the white civilization, because they had advanced to the level they did, was a mark of their superiority.
Yeah.
Right. But then every civilization and culture is different, and there's no such thing as like some universal monoculture.
No, there isn't. It's ridiculous.
Well,
There's-
words like superiority and inferiority are subjective anyway, and they're referenced
is
against
subjective.
whatever criteria you're using to mark out superiority.
Yeah, because
they're-
somebody will say like somebody could say they feel superior because they live in a mansion that's all fancy, but you know, there's a person that could just live in a hunter-gatherer society that's a lot happier and more content than them because they're surrounded by family and friends and everybody in their community.
Yeah, it just depends on what metric you're using. Superior by what metric?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, there's just no way to really make a definitive statement about the superiority of one culture over another. I mean, they were trying to say it was like because white people didn't do human sacrifices, and you know, so when the Spanish,
Well, to be honest,
invaded
like-
South America, yeah,
Well, to be honest, like I learned from another content creator a long time ago that human sacrifices are outlawed in Colombia, you know, during their civilizational period in the Middle Ages. So it's not like it's not like everybody in South and Central America was practicing that. I mean, it was really kind of more common in civilizations, and it was a lot less common in like hunter-gatherer societies.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, there's actually I don't know if you guys are familiar with the creator, DJ Peach Cobbler. He has a silly name. He
Oh,
used to
you
be kind
turned
of-
me on to him.
He did a 2-part video series recently about the whole narrative behind Cortez and the South American stuff. And it's really fascinating. He goes into a lot of like he examines a lot of different historical accounts of those things and tries to give like it's very funny too. He's very funny, but it's really good. I would definitely recommend that to anybody. I had to watch it twice because it really there was a lot of points he made that I had to kind of like go back and see again. But yeah, it's really good though. What's that sound?
Oh, it's just traffic outside. I live near a busy street. I had my
Okay.
window open just to air it out here so it doesn't smell bad when she gets here. But the funny thing about that too, about the whole comparison to Aztecs, is Trad Culture was saying on the same stream that like our country doesn't act any different than them in terms of like how we treat people.
Really?
So it's not like our
How so?
civilization is superior. It's more of like it's just equal to what was already happening there.
Well, I mean, we don't actually sacrifice people, I guess, but
We
I mean,
don't,
like,
but there is like a total lack of regard for human life in a lot of areas in this country.
and it's probably more. I guess it was with the people they sacrificed. Was it class based or something? I can't because
I don't know. It could have been criminal. I think it might have been criminals. I mean, I'm not really that well read on Aztec culture. So there's a lot of stuff I know absolutely nothing about. I mean, I know that they had like this interesting weapon that looked like a cricket bat that had spikes on it. I know they didn't wear armor when they battled that often. I think they had shields though.
Did you see the Mel Gibson movie?
No, I never
Apocalypto?
saw Apocalyptico. The only movie he did,
It's really good.
the only historical movie he did that I saw was The Passion.
Yeah, Passion of the Christ is actually really good too, for that matter. But I think Apocalypto is a better movie. It's actually
Yeah, I've never gotten to see Apocalypto, but I should.
I know Mel Gibson gets a lot of hate for being supposedly anti-Semitic and stuff like that, but I think he's actually one of the more interesting filmmakers that have emerged, especially for being an actor. The fact that he made these 2 films in a foreign language, both of them dead languages. It's pretty crazy.
She's calling me really quick. I gotta mute for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Another start. The fuck?
I just see that. I just saw that. The white man's burden is an example of that type of racism. Okay. White man's burden that's the wasn't that a movie with John Travolta? I think that's the title is based on the concept though, right? It's not something I'm really that familiar with. I remember that movie with John Travolta though about like a world where like white people are treated like supposedly how black people are and that stuff like that. It was a really bad
Which
movie.
one was that?
Look it up. The White Man's Burden. It's a movie from the 90s. See here. Search the web for that. Let's see. Looking for the movie though, not the. Yeah, White Man's Burden trailer from 1995. There it is. We probably watched the trailer on stream. I don't think that would because it's a trailer. It's a
I don't want to
promotional
risk
thing.
it.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
think?
How do people get away with doing all that reaction content they do? How do they
I
do
don't
that? They
know.
go
I've
on,
been trying to
they get
figure
on
that out.
stream and they play other people's videos, and like like Stitch and Adam, they stop like literally every 10 seconds to say something. So I assume that's how they get away with it because they don't play anything long enough to trigger the thing. But like I don't get it. I don't. But I thought you could
Paul
show
plays videos all the time. So does Machine Lies.
Yeah.
He's gotten copyright strikes before though.
Right. Yeah. I thought you could play trailers though, because the fact that they're promotional materials and therefore they weren't like considered like a protected content, but maybe not.
Let
I
me
don't
look
know.
it up.
Because this isn't even on like an official like movie studio's website or channel. It's from some channel called Video Detective. I don't see how they could have a copyright claim on it. I mean, it doesn't really matter anyway. So I just thought it would be funny to see if you haven't seen that trailer before. I saw the movie a long time ago, but it is it's probably on YouTube for that matter. I bet it is. It's one of those kind of movies that people have forgotten about so much. I kind of figured that it probably would be like just uploaded on YouTube or something. Let's see here. Maybe not. No, there it is. I see it. It's on that site that we found Girl 6 on ok.ru. Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah. I guess we could watch that sometime and talk about it. It's not
Yeah,
a
might
great
as well
movie.
add it to the list. That was the quality was really good for that movie.
Oh yeah, it was great. I was really impressed. It didn't seem to give any streaming issues or something. Hell, you don't even have to. I forgot how good Bing was for video embedding because, like, if you click on it in the search thing, it just brings it up still within Bing, but embedded from that website. So you don't even have to go to the website to watch it. So that's interesting. Here, I'm gonna send a link here. I'll put it over so you get the private chat. Anyway.
Oh, you can watch it straight from Bing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think what was the black actor in it is actually fairly. It's Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte is the black character, and it's basically like I don't know if he's a slave or something. He said in an alternative America where the social and economic positions of black people and white people are reversed. So I
got some of that from that movie last night. It seemed like the black people had achieved dominance. What was it, 2036?
Yeah, but I don't think it had anything to do with race. I think it was class entirely. They did play on that a little bit, but so we only saw the two families. We didn't see anybody else or any other part of the world, so it's really hard to say. They didn't see. It seems
But
like
didn't he make a comment about how we treated you people, or you like? He made some reference to the past, and she said something like,
"Yeah, they definitely
you don't know your history."
They definitely referenced slavery or race in that one instance, but like it seemed like the arguments were mostly class based. But the movie wasn't really interested in talking about it, so it hardly matters. The movie was anytime the movie started getting to something that could have been interesting, it would pivot to something else. So it was a complete waste of time. Yeah. Yeah, I was one of the biggest disappointments for a movie in a while for me. I was so disappointing. Anyway. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Like, did you find anything about if you could show a trailer on stream?
I looked. It didn't pull up any useful sites. I have to refine my search query.
Okay.
But I did see one site that said that all trailers are copyrighted. Like they just considered copyright.
Or if I could just, because I'm in Edge. That's the reason why like Bing is coming up, and it just like brought up this whole like AI like Chat GPT type thing. I did not ask for it to, but it's like listing out all these like things. Because I just put in the movie name, and it's like, I'm sorry, I can't provide you the link to watch the movie White Man's Burden, as it would be illegal and unethical. However, I can tell you the movie was released in 1995 and directed by Desmond Nakano. It's really weird. It sounds a lot more robotic than the Chat GPT stuff does, but it's still pretty much the same, though. It's probably powered by the same technology, I would have to assume.
Okay,
Anyway.
I found something on Quora. Let's see. Most studios are okay with, as long as it is for promotional or critic purposes.
Like I said, the channel that has it
the
uploaded.
promotional period, which is 3 to 6 months before the movie. After that, they do have a right to issue a cease and desist. So once the movie's played, it changes.
But the
Yes,
site
you generally need the permission of the copyright owner to stream a trailer on your web. This is on your website.
okay. Because like I said,
And
the
then this
channel that
person says, no, not really. It's not important.
because the channel that has it on their site, on their channel, it's not the owner of it. It's just some channel called Video Detective that has 128,000 subscribers. So it's not like it says it's official content from HBO Video, and that's all. It's just the whole trailer uploaded to someone else's site. It's probably even monetized with a subscriber base like that. So I don't see how, if they haven't cease and desist to this, which was uploaded in November 9th of 2014, I don't think we're going to run into any problems. But I mean, don't take the risk if you think it's going to get the stream taken down.
This site says it's technically not legal. Movie trailers are copyrighted, so YouTube can pull them at any time.
But then again, when they supposedly took out, they took that stream down the other day, then when you put it back up, they didn't take anything out. So.
No, I don't know what's up with that.
I wonder if the company just realized the bot had flagged something that wasn't their content, and they removed the claim, and therefore it just fell off. You think it could have been that? Because that's basically what happened. Like, I remembered what channel it was. It was Internet Comment Etiquette did a whole video about having a video of theirs copyright claimed. What got copyright claimed was this bit of stock footage that was of like the Earth or something like that, some sort of CGI free, free to use type video thing that he used. In like one clip is like a 3-second clip of this from this video, and like this India-based company, the same thing like that, except it was like a monetary type thing where they were trying to get the profits from the video. But then during the dispute process, when he was trying to dispute the claim and stuff like that, then they dropped it because I guess they realized that because it had been a bot that did it. So they might just go back and double check that stuff and be like, oh yeah, this wasn't actually, it wasn't actually our content, or it wasn't something else. So because that content ID thing like will flag stuff. It doesn't sound like it was YouTube's own bot that did it. Sound like it was some other company's bot. But
it was just stupid. It was such a waste of time.
Yeah, it really was.
Huh?
That's pretty awesome.
Your mom gave it to me.
That's nice. Yeah. 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 Well, I guess Lindsay wants to go to the store real fast, so I guess I'm gonna go and go take care of that. Are you gonna keep streaming for a while?
I'll probably wrap up. I don't know if he's coming back. He's talking to the
His
cave
girlfriend.
woman.
Yeah. Oh, he changed it to Cascadian Caveman now. It's just Caveman at first. I guess he decided.
Well, I'll be on machines later.
Yeah, I'll stop by the comments out there, see how things are going over there. If it turns into like what happened on that stream you were on, I'm not sticking around. But I'll certainly check it out. I'll
probably be glued to the screen.
I can't.
I don't know. I got burnt out on it last time after 14 hours of it. At some point,
I just can't take someone just belligerently yelling like that. That triggers me. Like it really does. Like
I'm so used to it. That's
how you deal with it a lot.
I got yelled at all the time growing up, constantly over little things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got yelled
at. My mom was
some,
always fussing about something, ranting and raving. And
my
so were
family
other
was
people.
my family was pretty good about not yelling too much, I guess. But I mean, there definitely was some yelling involved. I don't know. I had a pretty decent family, to be honest. I don't think I really had to deal with too much in terms of like being screamed at or something. I got spanked when I was a kid, but that was a lot more loud than the screaming was usually.
I never did get. My mom was not a spanker. She spanked my brothers, but I never got spanked. But I did get paddled by the principal when I was in elementary school because we were running in the halls. Me and a friend, and he called us in. It was the paddle with the holes. He was an old black man. And we had to bend over. It was me and a friend, and we got hit. And then he hit me, and then he sent us out to recess. And we walked down the hall real quiet. And we opened the door to the playground. And once we got outside, we threw ourselves on the playground and started rolling around, laughing our ass off. We thought that was the funniest thing we had ever just been.
So you think that we didn't make a mistake by banning spankings in school and stuff like that?
I don't know. All it did was make us laugh. That to this day, that's my reaction to somebody trying to discipline me. It's so surreal and absurd and humorous to me that my mom did the wooden spoons on my brother, and she would always break them. It was so funny watching my brothers get whipped, and they would laugh too. The whole time she's trying to hit them, they were running around dodging her spoon and laughing, and she'd break the spoon and they'd laugh. Like spanking was always a comedy thing in our house. Anytime my mom tried it.
My dad used a belt, so it hurt. But I mean, I think the last time I got spanked, I was like 8.
I'm back.
Oh, is this cave woman?
She gets the comfy chair though. I got kicked off, and now I'm in the very uncomfortable metal chair.
Oh, now we know where the true dominance is.
Yeah, this is Chris, and this is Jeff.
Hi.
Hey, Chris.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you. Yeah. So
This is Juniper.
you're spending the weekend?
Yeah, we're gonna be hanging out the whole weekend, but we're gonna be walking over to the Saturday market soon.
Cool. Machine is doing a stream tonight. I'll probably be over there later.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on that stream. I'm not gonna be on the whole stream, but I'll be on it for like a beast of good. I don't know. Is that okay if I'm on it for like a good half hour or something?
There.
You're fine with that? Yeah. Cool. We're gonna like marathon some movies. We were supposed to watch the Apocalypse trilogy last weekend, but then I realized I did not have Prince of Darkness on my tablet.
What's the Apocalypse trilogy? I'm not sure.
Okay, so there's these 3 movies that John Carpenter did that dealt with
okay.
apocalyptic situations. So the first one was The Thing from 1982,
which is great. I have a huge lithograph poster of that in my house. So yeah.
And the second one that she hadn't seen yet was Prince of Darkness. And it has Donald Pleasance in it. And Alice Cooper even makes a cameo.
Cool. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool movie. You should definitely check it out. And then the third one was In the Mouth of Madness, which we also watched.
I love
that movie.
That's such a trippy movie.
So that's part. I watched that the other day. In fact, we were playing
that movie's such a mindfuck though, because you don't even know if like You don't even know if the main character is a fictional character too. Like you don't know if Sutter Kane wrote him.
Yeah.
I watched it trip. Me and my friends watched it tripping on mushrooms, and my friend thought he was trapped in the movie, and he ran to his house and he jumped through his picture window. He was so
God.
like I had to knock on the door and tell his dad
Shit.
what happened. And I said, I'm just letting you know we were doing mushrooms and your son thinks he's trapped in a movie. And the dad's like, what movie? I said, In the Mouth of Madness. And the dad said, oh, yeah, I heard that was supposed to be pretty good. How was it? I said, it was pretty
What
good.
a perfect
tonight.
response. What
And
a
his
perfect
son's like
response.
laying on the floor covered in glass the whole time, bleeding.
That's crazy. That is
insane.
just insane.
Did you ever play the game with Alan Wake? It's actually very similar to In the Mouth of Madness. It's like a cross between In the Mouth of Madness and Twin Peaks. If you've never played the game,
Oh,
it's
I've
actually
heard
kind
of
of cool.
it. Is that the mystery game?
Yeah, it's like basically the same thing. It's like the main character's a writer, and he wrote the whole scenario of the game is taking place in, but he's trapped within his own story, and it's also very Twin Peaks-esque at the same time. So it's set in the Pacific Northwest and stuff like that. It's got all those.
Yeah, I think I read about it. It was like a homage
But yeah,
to Twin Peaks.
thanks for having me on. I'm
references were
definitely I'll definitely talk to you guys later. I'm going to check out the Saturday market because this is going to be like the last month or so that they're going to have it before the weather gets all crappy.
Cool. Yeah, we have
yeah,
one like that
definitely.
on Sundays here, so it's pretty cool. I know.
All right.
Like a
Enjoy
farmer's
the
market, I think.
weekend,
Have a
Chris.
good
It
one.
was nice meeting you, and
Thank
maybe
you.
I'll see you later on the stream.
Yeah, nice
All
meeting you.
right. See ya.
Yeah, we might as well end. I might try to get a little nap before tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I'll see you in the comments, or I'll message you on Discord or something if you're not on there yet or something. Oh, wait, see, should some amount of physical violence be allowed in school and/or the family household? Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was wondering. It's maybe a good
I
topic for
am
next
not
time.
a big fan of violence or discipline. My grandma would take the switch. She'd make you break off a tree branch that was called the switch, and she'd hit you if you have to for
I had a grandma
discipline.
like
And I
that.
love my grandma to death.
Me too.
I think if you're going to use physical discipline, there's an art and a skill to it that maybe not all parents can pull off. I think there are other techniques that are probably more effective.
I agree.
So I myself would not advocate for it or use it, but I wouldn't demonize parents that did use it sparingly and intelligently.
I don't know that it's very good for. We didn't spank our other daughter, and I don't really plan on spanking her either. But at the same time, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily completely opposed to it. If someone had a good argument for it, I do say I can see how it probably was effective towards certain types of kids back in the day, and that there's probably a degree of like discipline that would be certain types of personalities that might respond better to that. I wasn't the type of person that responded well. I think I got spanked like a total of 5 times ever. So, and it didn't do much to me besides create a kind of a fear of my dad, maybe a little bit. That faded over time. But like when I was younger, it did kind of give me a negative reaction towards my father for a while. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think I was always very empathetic though and stuff like that. So I don't think it's the kind of thing that worked very well on me. It just made me, and especially the things I got spanked over, I even remember as a child, I didn't really understand why this was the response to what I supposedly did. And so, yeah, I don't think it was very effective. That's why I know with our daughter, it was much more effective for her. She didn't really, I don't think she would have feared getting spanked. We had her go like do like the sit in the corner type thing, just for like 15 minutes. And like, she was way more, she really responded to that. She did not do whatever she did to get that again. She hated that more than anything. That was like a horrific punishment for her. I always felt bad about it. But yeah, or sit in her room in her bed and like let another play with the toys for like an hour or two, like a timeout like that. Timeouts were really effective for her. But I don't know other kids. I only really have experienced little girls though. I've had 2 sisters that were both babies when I was a teenager, and I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I have this one. And I don't have any experience with little boys. So, and I know a lot of little boys are a lot more rebellious and rambunctious and like that. So maybe there's something to it with boys, but for girls especially, I don't see it. I couldn't imagine spanking my daughters. I don't know. I don't think it would be effective with them, and I don't I've never been in a situation with them. They're both really good. I mean, this one, she's pretty small so far, but I'm sure she'll be a good kid too. But our daughter, Clover, was he was a really, really good kid. We barely ever had to punish her or do anything like that at all. So I don't know. She never did anything that rose to the level of thinking I needed to spank her. You know, I never saw a value in that. So, but I have heard people make the argument that, you know, that kids were overall better off when there was more distinctly drawn disciplinary lines, you know. I don't know if there's an argument. Maybe something to talk about. Maybe somebody on stream some other time. I'm going to go, though. I'm going to go take them to the store. So, but
have fun. Maybe
bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. And bye, everyone in the comments. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, definitely not in school. I think any discipline, if there's going to be physical discipline, only the parents or the immediate family. I don't think strangers should be spanking other people's kids.
Too much opportunity for
we've had like the tap on the leg or the slap on the hand and stuff like that. If you're counting that as violence, like to get you to, like, don't touch that or don't touch the hot stuff, like that kind of stuff.
That's usually for a kid's benefit, though. That's not to. It's like the saying that C.S. Lewis said about. He was commenting on the character of Aslan in the Chronicles of Narnia that he characterized, you know, the Christ-like figure of the Chronicles of Narnia as a lion because he wanted to be a fierce character, a character that would not hesitate to injure someone to keep them from falling off a cliff. You know, something that was dangerous about it. I think there's a value in that mentality. Hey, Adaptable, thanks for saying it's a great stream. I appreciate it. Come on stream next time, man. Come on stream next time.
I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, but it might get canceled. And if it does, I'll stream in the afternoon. But if not, I think I can do it tomorrow evening.
All right, cool. Well,
like 7 or 8 your time.
I'll keep my eyes out for messages or YouTube notifications. So I'll be around. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Man.
Well, have a good weekend.
Bye.
A good
you
day.
too. Bye.
All right. And the rest of you have a good weekend. Man, we went for 3.5 hours today. Good. They're getting longer and longer. That's what I like. Thanks for watching, and we'll tonight. Machine Lies is doing a stream on history. He does like 15-hour streams. He'll be starting in about 3 hours, and he usually streams all night and even part of the next morning. So you never know what's going to happen on a stream. Prepare for anything. He has a background in philosophy. When he talks philosophy, he's really good at presenting some of the philosophical background of the current issues. Or you might get a bunch of drama. You never know. And it's an open panel, so random guests can drop in and talk about anything. So that's how I plan to spend my evening. And like I said, I'll stream tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, depending on if my meeting gets canceled or not. Have a good weekend. Do something fun for yourself, and see you next time. Thanks a lot.